At the White House, Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany was asked about the federal response to the pandemic.
The president's confident that it'll disappear. He's confident that he's put together a revolutionary, first-class team that is going to break through bureaucracy and get us a vaccine. He's confident that that will lead us to a place where we won't have COVID on our hands.
And McEnany said more than 500,000 people are being tested a day for the virus, and that's why there's been an increase in cases. On to the president, the House passing a measure that was designed to help small businesses during the pandemic.
An extension of the Paycheck Protection Program is what unanimous approval in the House the day after the Senate approved the extension by unanimous consent. The program, created as part of coronavirus relief legislation, expired this week with more than $100 billion unspent. The extension now gives small businesses until August 8th to apply for loans, which are fully forgivable if most of the money is used for payroll. Broader coronavirus relief funding, potentially offering assistance to state and local governments and shielding businesses and schools from lawsuits, is not expected to be considered before the end of the month. On Capitol Hill, Jared Halpern, Fox News.
President Trump and the Republican Party raised a combined $266 million in the second quarter. That's according to the campaign. America is listening to Fox News.
America is ready to get back to work, but to win in the new economy, you use every advantage.
We are TFR, Truth Frequency Radio.
Condition orange. Condition orange. Situation Delta in effect. Please enter your agent number now, followed by the hash key.
You have to create culture. Don't watch TV. Don't read magazines. Don't even listen to NPR.
Time comes when silence is betrayal.
More for themselves and less for everybody else. But I'll tell you what they don't want. They don't want a population of citizens capable of critical thinking. They don't want well-informed, well-educated people capable of critical thinking. They're not interested in that. That doesn't help them.
Think for yourself. Question authority.
This code has been compromised.
All right, welcome back, Truth Seeker. It is Wednesday, July 1st, 2020. This is the Gematria Effect. I'm Zachary K. Hubbard. We're on every Wednesday night, Truth Frequency Radio. We also have started streaming in recent times on YouTube. If you want to join us there, search Gematria Effect News. Last week, we had a great guest. He returned for his second time, Eric 777. He said that he learned from a man named Johnny Cirucci, and he's going to join us 1 hour from now. So top of the next hour, we'll have Johnny Cirucci with us. We'll be talking about the Jesuits. Been another week of news by the numbers and more Jesuit fingerprints all over it. Johnny Cirucci's been saying for several years that the Jesuits are the tip of the spear. So want to talk to him about how he arrived at that conclusion when he did. And of course, there's a lot of people who've been saying the Jesuits are the tip of the spear for a long time, longer than myself or Johnny have been on the planet. But, at this day and age, we're coming up with new research and what I would say is some truly undeniable evidence. And that'll actually be a little bit of a point of contention with the guest that we're having on tonight. I think he's warming up to the idea of Gematria, but from what I understand, he's a critic and a skeptic. And I heard him say in his own words, he's not a probability expert, so, he's on the fence. But, from my perspective, I find it hurts me that at this day and age, people still don't see that this is a foregone conclusion about what's going on with this code and how relevant it is at this day and age. And I want to make a point about the big news from this past Sunday, Cam Newton joining the Patriots, something we talked about happening in March after Brady joined the Bucs and Cam Newton was released a week later. But Cam Newton, you know, it was January of 2016 that USA Today's Big Lead wrote their article making fun of my research and my prediction for why the Broncos were going to beat the Carolina Panthers in Super Bowl 50, a prediction that went back to October of that year. Not only did we have the two teams right in the outcome, we had the MVP Von Miller right, we had the tribute to the Black Panthers right. And the reason we were able to predict all of this correctly, all these exact parts of this narrative correctly months before the Super Bowl came about, was by understanding a riddle with Cam Newton, the star quarterback of the Carolina Panthers, who have a Black Panther on their helmet, and Huey P. Newton, who has the same surname, who established the Black Panther Party the season of the first Super Bowl, the 1966 season. And Huey P. Newton had established the Black Panther Party in the Bay Area where Super Bowl 50 was, that Cam Newton lost to the Broncos in. And this year Cam Newton was let go of by the Carolina Panthers on Peyton Manning's birthday, who he lost to in that Super Bowl. And remember, the weekend before that Super Bowl, FX put out the show about O.J. Simpson with the Bronco chase. And again, we saw this coming way before it happened. But in light of saying, you know, Cam Newton was Huey P. Newton back then with what I knew, it's amazing how now in 2020 this ritual's come together with Cam Newton going to the Patriots after a year of shaming. And it just backs up 100% what we were teaching about back then. Back then, I mostly focused on one cipher, the alphabetic order with the rules numerology. In that cipher, Huey P. Newton equaled 58. I saw that if Cam Newton faced Peyton Manning in a Super Bowl, it would be his 58th, or Cam Newton would become the 58th quarterback to start in a Super Bowl. And I said, this is what they're doing. This is crazy. And what I didn't know back then is just running the alphabetic order in reverse. Very simple. Almost the exact same as what I was doing back then with the alphabetic order forwards. I never thought to do it in reverse, but what's amazing to look at 4 years later, in 2020, we're talking about stuff that happened in 2015, 2016. So 4 or 5 years later, we now know reverse gematria. And what's amazing is the name Huey P. Newton equals 131 when you run the alphabetic order in reverse. And you look at Cam Newton, he's born on May 11th, which is the 131st day of the year. And you look at Huey P. Newton, who died on August 22nd. That's the day leaving 131 days left in the year. And Cam Newton, right now, his career stats. Here's the list. If you're looking at YouTube, you can see the list of the top active quarterbacks in terms of games started, wins, losses, ties. You can see Cam Newton, after his very weird last year where they shut him down early, he comes to the Patriots on 131 career wins. 131. And again, Huey P. Newton 131. He's born on the 131st day of the year. Huey P. Newton died on the day, leaving 131 days left in the year. If you followed me that year, I didn't know reverse gematria back then. But our first clue about the Broncos being in the Super Bowl was very early in the season with ESPN's minute 31 long story of Peyton Manning and how 57 children are named after him in Indiana. And if you write out 57 as a word, it equals the same thing as Super Bowl, which is 131. And a big number was Super Bowl history. Kind of like how this past year we called Super Bowl 54 the Joe Montana Bowl. Joe Montana played for the 49ers and Chiefs. He wore 19 for the Chiefs, who won the 2019 season. Joe Montana equals 54. It was Super Bowl 54. And it was 131 days from his birthday, the Super Bowl number. So again, just the things that we've taught about, the repetitive patterns, how we've used them to call sports season after season, college and pro, advanced by the same repetitive code. Now to see this big ritual with Cam Newton, the Black Panther, going to the Patriots at the time of this shifting of culture, this empowerment of Black Lives Matter, you know, things being said on the TV that have never been said before, just this significant moment. Now the Black Panther, Cam Newton, the face of the New England Patriots, replacing Tom Brady, who's going down to the Pirates. the Buccaneers. And again, there's more to all of this. I put out a video earlier this week, 2 days ago, I believe. Monday. Yeah, 2 days ago. Monday, the night after Cam Newton went to the Panthers. There's just so much more detail to this. But again, Gematria, it is a very simple code, and when you pay attention to it, it is truly undeniable. And you don't need to be a professional statistician to see that if somebody continues to be correct in their predictions about sports and news, and they continue to back it up by the very simple code that they've always taught and stuck to, there must be something going on, you know? So, again, I didn't know reverse gematria in 2016. I wouldn't have been able to appreciate the Huey P. Newton 131 thing, which is why, you know, I didn't catch that Cam Newton born on the 131st day of the year at the time. I wish we'd known that then. It would have made it even easier. But again, these things are improbable. And here, just speaking of probability, since the gentleman who's going to join us tonight, we're going to be talking about the Jesuits. Again, May 20th this year, you had the death of Adolfo Nicolas, the former superior general, meaning the leader of the Jesuits. He died May 20th, 2020, and he died at age 84. And for years, we've educated about the Jesuits in 84 rituals, and Pope Francis in 84, and the death of Castro, and Castro's son, and the Pope in 84, and a million more things. A lot of this is written about in my first book. Again, Jesuit equals 84. You do it the small way. The Catholic Church is 84. The Jesuit Order is 84. And if you write out Superior General, that title for the Jesuit leader, it equals 84. Pope Francis, the first publicly Jesuit pope with 84 birth numerology. So you see that Adolfo Nicolas dies at 84 as the Jesuit leader. This year, that's just this number that's so symbolic to the Jesuits. When he died, I was 3/4 of the way through finishing my book that focuses so much on 84 and the Jesuits. And then I get to tuck this into it. And then you go beyond that. May 20th leaves 225 days left in the year. If you run the alphabetic order in reverse, his name, Adolfo Nicolas, equals 225. Another number of focus with the Jesuits and the rituals going on right now, which I'll say for another time. There's a reason event 201 was 225 minutes long. And there's a reason George Floyd died on his 225th day of his age. And then the next day, the Catholic Church in Minnesota settled for $22.5 million plus more. But again, this man dies on the day leaving 225 days left in the year. His name equals 225. And the ritual is so perfect that the current Superior General, Arturo Sosa, Adolfo Nicolas dies on his 191st day of his age. And Society of Jesus, just using the alphabetic order, 191. Like Jesuit with the alphabetic order is 84. So the Jesuit dead at 84, Jesuit short for Society of Jesus, 191, dead on the 191st day of the current leader of the Jesuits' age. Again, numbers we've always talked about with the Jesuits, patterns we've explained for years. For these things to happen as many times as they have, and probably hundreds more that we haven't even documented yet. And then for it to happen again with the Superior General just in recent days. Again, statistically, think about it. His name has a 225 connection, right? So there's 2 days in the year that would have a 225 connection. The 225th day of the year and the day leaving 225 days left in the year. So in a leap year, that's 2 out of 366 days. In a regular year, 2 out of 365. So very close to 2 out of 400, which is very close to 1 out of 200, which is very close to 0.5%. So you have a little bit better chance than 0.5% for that alignment to happen. Then you got to ask yourself, what are the odds of the alignment of the 284s? Again, we're talking about 4 base ciphers, and for the first 3 years, we were just talking about 2 ciphers. But with these 4 base ciphers, let's just say that a number couldn't go higher than 225, which isn't true. It's like the full name of NASA equals 666, But let's just say it could only go up to 225. Let's say it could only go that high. So you have 4 chances to get 225. So those odds are less than 1 in 50, so less than 2% odds, right? So you got these extremely unlikely odds again and again. Yet day after day for 7 years straight just show how all of this comes together. News and sports, and correctly predict what's coming next. When you multiply a percentage like, 0.5% times 2%, the odds become more astronomical. And again, you just continue to do that again and again and again. Essentially what I'm doing every single day has the odds of winning like a sizable lottery every single day. It's as if I've figured out a way to win a sizable lottery every day with the connections we're making and the correct predictions that continue to be piled on year after year as we build our evidence and correct number of projections. Now again, CNN, it mocks people, winners and losers of Cam Newton to England, like he's being traded around like he's an asset. Why isn't Harriet Tubman on the $20 bill yet, associated with slavery? And again, just things like that news story came out on May 22nd, 22/5, 3 days before the reported killing of George Floyd, who supposedly had a counterfeit 20, right? And his name, George Perry Floyd, equals 201, like Harriet Tubman's 201, like Confederates 201, and this leads to the bringing down of, Confederate statues and monuments throughout the nation and all sorts of history throughout the world, actually. This has sparked a worldwide movement, this George Floyd. But again, this 201, a number we've been following since Event 201 that we've learned is, essentially the property of the Jesuits. And I'll tell you more about 201 in a little bit. But again, all these things coming together, these rituals. And with regards to the Civil War and George Floyd, his full name, George Perry Floyd, it equals 201 the big way. The small way, it equals 102. Like slavery's 102, like the American Civil War began on the 102nd day of the year. Like the Jesuits translated Art of War, which equals 102, the same as World War 102. Again, all this stuff is pointing back to the Jesuits, this code of letters and numbers coming from a Catholic monk. The calendar system we're on that it's synced up with, credited to Pope Gregory. The English language standardized at the same moment in history as the Gregorian calendar was rolling out. And then these rituals perfectly in sync ever since. Cam Newton just got traded from Charlotte, by the way, and Charlotte equals 102, and we've talked about plenty of Charlotte 102 rituals in years past. All of this stuff connected. CNN putting these stories side by side, not an accident. It's all symbolism. Speaking of symbolism that really should just punch you in the nose. On June 29th, the key dates were set for the upcoming George Floyd murder case. And the pretrial meeting date is September 11th. What does George Floyd equal with the alphabetic order? 119, right? We talked about this from the opening moment. Fraternal Order of Police, 119. George Floyd, 119. Fraternal Order of Police, 119. Now they're setting the date for September 11th, a date written 11/9 in the majority of the world. They've already said that the officer was on his neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. We know the first plane hit the tower on 9/11 at 8:46. And you know what's crazy now that they've done this? I already have in my book that I'm finishing about how the day of George Floyd's killing, May 25th to September 11th this year, is 110 days. And now I'm just going to have to erase out the sentence because in the book I'm saying it'll be interesting to keep an eye on September 11th in light of the George Floyd story to see if there's a continuation. Well, now I don't even need to write that, right? Because it's happened since I wrote it, which wasn't that long ago. And what stood out to me was the 110 days. We were just talking about 110 with regards to September 11th and what Dave Chappelle did. Dave Chappelle did this skit, 8:46, talking about George Floyd's killing, saying he was born at 8:46 in the morning. And we talked about how Dave Chappelle equals 110, like Minnesota, like Osama bin Laden, like the name Rockefeller. And the Rockefellers proposed the World Trade Centers, whose demise was blamed on Osama bin Laden, and they were 110 stories tall, and it was called the New Pearl Harbor. And earlier that year, on the same day, in May 2001, the anniversary of the George Floyd killing, the movie Pearl Harbor came out, 110 days from September 11th. So that's the point I was making in the book, and now it's already happened, so it's like, well, I'll rephrase that sentence. But again, that's just why, and you guys, we've been doing this since the beginning. And for people to still be like, I'm just not sure, I don't know, is it a coincidence? It's just like, man, you know, you got to work on your mathematics skills. You might be a great researcher, but man, if you can't do this basic math and see that this is improbable and mocking you, you know, and it doesn't just stop there. So that the pre-trial date is September 11th, and then the trial begins on March 8th, you guys, 3/8. He was killed on 38th Street. Minnesota equals 38. Death equals 38. Murder 38. Killing 38. RIP 38. You know, we've been talking about the movie poster, Murder by Numbers. Shout out to Miss Mildred who sent me that poster. I still need to get it framed. I need to get that done. When we have Gematria Effect News Studios, I'm going to get that poster back there. It needs to be behind at all times. But we've been talking about this for years. The E to the 3, the B to the 8. Murder by Numbers. The star of that movie, Sandra Bullock, whose name equals 83. Murders 83 the big way, 38 the small way. The song Murder by Numbers by the Police came out in 83. We've been talking about how, you know, he was killed next to Police Cruiser 320. Roman Catholic Church is 320. He was killed next to Police Cruiser 320 after being taken out of a Mercedes ML 320. Think about the odds of that. But the police cruiser that he was first taken out by, because he was walked away and killed by the other one, the police cruiser on the corner is number 830, 830, and we've been talking about this since it's like Murder by Numbers on screen, almost in tribute to the 1983 song. And then they got Police Cruiser 830 down on the corner. And now they've given us a murder trial date on March 8th that can be written 3/8 or 8/3. And I still got people sitting back going, man, I don't know. I just don't know. I know last year you showed how on the 38th day of the year a 38-year-old was thrown off a balcony and 50 other stories like it, but I still just don't know. Got a chapter in my first book, Murder by Numbers, over 150 pages long, just that chapter alone, and I could have made it 1,500 pages long, literally, if I wanted to. Just the same patterns, the same numbers, and now this murder trial. Man. So, anyway, it's mind-blowing. You got this story, this coming out today. Hotel employee calls police on black family using the pool as guests, some more racial divisiveness. Missy Williams Wright, her son 11 and daughter 7, like 117, like Central Intelligence Agency 117. Divide and conquer. Anyhow, this woman's name, Missy Williams Wright, 97-119, right? Civil War 97-119. George Floyd 119-43. Civil War 43-119. The Black Lives Matter car, number 43, at NASCAR in the big civil rights ritual. The next day, the market falls 1,861 points, like how the Civil War began in 1861. You know? They said this happened at a Hampton Inn. I want you to notice that Hampton Inn has Gematria of 146 in the base ciphers, and Williamston, North Carolina is 146 as well, where this happened, and George Floyd was killed on the 146th day of the year, and Colin Kaepernick equals 146, and LeBron James instantly compared the kneeling on George Floyd's neck to Kaepernick taking a knee, and the flag's birthday is 14/6, June 14th. And we've been using these rituals for years to call the outcomes of these sports seasons, and so much of it's been factored around this. The racism, the protesting, the president. Notice this happened at a Hampton Inn, also sums to 52, like I Can't Breathe in Minnesota. Minnesota hosted Super Bowl 52. That year was all about the flag. It was all about the Eagles versus the Patriots, and we called it on September 23rd, 23/9, like 239, the 52nd prime, because the flag was sewn at 239 Arch Street in Philly. And that year, it was all about the protest, the flags from Philly. The Patriots had the flag on the side of the helmet. We knew the Patriots were in the Super Bowl before the season even began because of their connection to 98. Again, it was the 98th NFL season. Tom Brady's name, Patriots, New England Patriots. They're the most 98 team in the league. A lot to explain. But again, to look at these things and think like, well, you had 4 ciphers, so maybe. No. I've shown this 1,000 times. Try typing in things that have no connection to each other and see if you can keep hitting the same numbers. Numbers that are all connected as part of one, interlocking ritual that's meant to divide everybody with a very clear narrative, the Civil War. We've been showing how it's like this with each story after story. He just had a shooting in Louisville over the Breonna Taylor thing by the numbers. This was June 27th, the day leaving 187 days left in the year. The homicide code, the Jesuits, Society of Jesus 187. And from the Breonna Taylor killing to this killing, and this was at a protest in remembrance of her, or a gathering in remembrance of her, from her killing to June 27th, a span of 106 days. Remember, Black Lives Matter 106, I Can't Breathe 106, Black 106, Kentucky 106. I got to add to that list Prophecies 106, because all of this has to do with Acts 7:6 and Acts 7:7 and the 400 years that were hit last August 2019. But Kentucky also 106, where this happened. NASCAR, what they did with the Black Lives Matter car on June 10th, 10/6. NASCAR is also 106. Again, these numbers getting used ritualistically. And there's more to it with all of this. If you missed the work we did on Breonna Taylor and, man, what was the other guy's? Was the next guy called David McAtee? I think that was it. But we covered that more than a month back. You got this other story about the killing of Elijah McClain in Colorado. Remember, Colorado is one of the 438 states, and it's the 38th state in order of statehood. And you got this story of death that's related to the George Floyd killing on 38th Street. Again, the 438 states, Minnesota, Colorado, Florida, Louisiana, all 38. Years ago, it was Alton Sterling and Philando Castile on the same date, Louisiana and Minnesota. You know, you've had killings in Florida since this, now Minnesota. It's only a matter of time, Louisiana. And his name, Elijah McClain, equals 55, like Minneapolis, like Sigma Pi Phi, like Boulay. Remember the lawyer, Benjamin Crump of the Boulay, Kobe Bryant's death, the big Boulay ritual, his memorial on the 55th day of the year, only for them to come out and say that George Floyd had a daughter named Gianna like Kobe. And now they're saying this Elijah McClain was killed on August 24th, which is Kobe Bryant Day. Again, the Lakers originally from Minneapolis. You guys, this stuff is ritual. Sick, twisted ritual. Can't explain it enough. So there's a lot more to talk about tonight. The commercial should be kicking in here very shortly. And as soon as we come back, we will be having Rambo. Rambo, always an amazing guest, always doing amazing research. We'll be with him. And after Rambo's done, if he finishes before the top of the hour, we'll take some calls. After the next break, we'll have our guest with us, Johnny Cirucci, great researcher of the Jesuits. And if he wants to mix in some calls tonight, we will. Or if he just has a lot of information to share, we'll listen to that. So we'll play it by ear, and I do intend to stay after a little bit tonight. There are a few more things I want to talk about that I didn't reach this top of the hour. Just doing a little bit too much ranting. Be right back, Truth Seeker. Sit tight.
Yo. I'm giving out the fake cell phone name. Big Bang.
Extendivite is more than just a heart tonic. Do you have any of these symptoms? Night cramps in the hands and feet. Your arms and legs often go to sleep. On short walks, do your legs get aches and pains? Is your memory worse than it used to be? Ankles that swell late in the day? Has your blood pressure increased lately? If you answered yes to even one of these questions, you may have early warning signs of arterial blockages. Your body is saying that it is time to take Extendivite. These are not the normal signs of aging. They are the warning signs that accompany blocked arteries. Get your Extendivite today. Extendivite is available in capsule or liquid form for just $69.95 for a 2-month supply. To get started, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822. Or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
So, you love talk radio, then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
If you have hard water, the Live Scale not only leaves white spots, it clogs pipes and breaks down appliances, costing you hundreds of dollars in energy and wear. Eliminate Lime Scale and other water issues like brown staining and bad odors with HydroCare water products available from Wave Home Solutions. Wave's affordable water systems don't use salts or chemicals. You'll love the way your water tastes, smells, and looks. Satisfaction guaranteed. For more information, go to bestwater123.com. That's bestwater123.com.
He was the deputy director of MI6, Britain's most senior diplomat. He was knighted by the Queen and in charge of thousands of highly trained spies. But he was also a member of the Paedophile Information Exchange. He had 45 diaries full of sex fantasies with children. His friend was the private secretary of Margaret Thatcher. He strangled a child and hit another with a car. He raped young boys and organized orgies with children for other politicians.
The Enigma Channel, intelligent television for planet Earth. EnigmaTV.com.
We are TFR.
My faith in destiny is all I need to prevail.
Truth Frequency Radio.
All right, we're back, Truth Seeker. We're going out to Rambo, who joins us every week right about this time, always with something brilliant to share. And I'll tell you what, as soon as I'm done researching the book, I'm going to spend a lot of time really thinking about the 7 days of the week, because I know they're named after the 7 classical planets, and that all relates. I know that what Rambo's doing is something I've been asking for somebody like Rambo to step up for years. And the astrology piece, it really brings a lot to the table. So without further ado, here he is. How are you, Rambo?
Thanks again, Zach.
Hey, man.
Yeah, Wednesday is Mercury Day. It's Mercury in Latin and miércoles in Spanish. Mercury in French. So today is Mercury Day. It's named after Mercury, which is what I want to talk about today.
Rambo, just before you go any further, can I have you look a little bit more into Mars? Because I noticed Mars had Jewish gematria of 201, and that's a very relevant cipher. So it just has me going, Mars in 201. What am I missing?
Oh, yeah, okay. I mean, so far, I haven't seen much Mars, which I'm going to talk about some of the astrology stuff today. But I'll see if I can't think on top of my head. I put a lot of thought into it on how Mars might be related.
Isn't Mars related to war?
Mars is the god of war. But a lot of these gods, their origin goes back before Rome, before Greece, to Babylon,
sure.
and before that.
Sure.
Top of my head, I see. If you go back to the Sumerian, this is where it all goes back to, Babylon and before. That's where it all goes back to. The symbol for Enlil is one of the chief gods. They had the war of the gods. So Enlil, Jupiter, the thunder god, a member of his faction was his son. He had a warrior son. His name was Ninurta. The symbol of Ninurta was a double-headed eagle, which is today's symbol for the 33rd degree of Freemasonry, as well as other, like the Russia, their coat of arms. But that's where the double-headed eagle comes from, Ninurta, who's the son of Enlil. Yeah, so yeah.
Very interesting.
Mars is related.
Okay, yeah, just for a future project. And just to give you a lead thought, if you do want to look into that, remember how they projected that, remember how Google and Wikipedia had at the beginning of the year that World War III would start on May 6th, and that was 201 days after Event 201, and it ended up being the day that Trump vetoed the War Powers Act, limiting his power to start war with Iran, and he did it on May 6th, exactly 56 days after the War Powers legislation was brought up by Congress, and we know Soleimani equals 56, and at the beginning of the year they said at least 56 trampled to death at his funeral. So I started to think about Mars and 201 and Jewish gematria and the relevance of, you know, the World War prediction and just everything else that's kind of there, and I'm just thinking, okay, is there something to this? So I know if anybody can answer that question, it's you. But not to interrupt your presentation anymore, you got the floor, Rambo.
So yeah, also with the tropical zodiac, it's not that complicated. Like the 12th house zodiac, which is the popular Western zodiac, don't just look at the signs themselves. The key, which I find it with decoding with astrology, the key to the zodiac signs are the ruling planets. Right. So what could be related to the 201 is that Mars is a ruling planet of Scorpio. And a famous Scorpio related to Event 201 is Bill Gates. Bill Gates is a Scorpio, so his ruling planet is Mars. So that's part of it.
That makes a lot of sense because William Henry Gates equals 201. So, okay, yeah, already making sense.
Right, and May 6th is under Taurus. Directly opposite Scorpio is Taurus. When you look at the zodiacal wheel, it looks like 12 slices of pizza. The one directly opposite Scorpio is Taurus, and that's what May 6th is. And Taurus is ruled by Venus. So there's a Venus-Mars thing going there.
I see.
So, yeah. Also, yeah, one thing I noticed, wanted to point out, I don't know if you realize this, but you know the USA Today news article that you've been citing that mentioned you?
Oh, sure.
I noticed. Yeah, I noticed that it was published on January 27th.
Right.
That's 127. That's a reflection of your birthday. I don't know if you realize it.
Well, I did talk about that. The other thing that I really saw about it was 27/1, like 271, the 58th prime, because that's what I'd been saying all season, was that he'd become the 58th quarterback to start in a Super Bowl, and Huey P. Newton, and because the article was, I mean, it didn't just mention me. The article was about me and going after my work and then making fun of the whole Black Panther thing, so.
All right. Okay, so I posted a real short article. It's up on the GematriaEffect.news. It shows the organic matrix. You came up with the name Rambo's Corner for my segment on the GematriaEffect.news. That's one that you came up with.
Are you okay with that? Are you okay with it being called Rambo's Corner?
No, this is interesting. You got to see what the decode is.
Okay.
Now, Derek, yeah, it's on GematriaEffect.news. I just posted it. Now, Derek, he made the Gematrinator calculator. He came up with the name Gematrinator for his calculator. So this is the you guys didn't work together. Rambo's Corner and Gematrinator are perfect in all four ciphers.
That is crazy.
Synchronous.
That is very interesting.
Yeah, and it's actually Derek who noticed that. So I wish I could have noticed, but Derek's the one who noticed that.
But yeah, that's very funny. And for people who wonder, I swear to God, I didn't think about that at all. I was just like, Rambo's Corner. that works for me.
Yeah. Yeah, and it worked out perfectly with Gematrinator. I don't know how you couldn't have scripted that. You couldn't even have calculated that.
Yeah, that's amazing.
All right. Okay, so I'm going to talk about Sean King, because Sean King's been in the news with his comments about the white Jesus.
Right.
And there's more to that. there's a reason Sean King did. I saw this coming a mile away. I mean, I knew it was before. I knew it was it's a Mercury ritual, which I've been talking about. So there's a pattern that's been playing out in news and historical events, which are, most news and historical events, a lot of them are rituals. They're manifestation rituals. They carry these out to manifest whatever reality the practitioners desire. So the pattern I'm talking about has been exhibited for centuries. Lately, it's been enacted with unprecedented frequency. This pattern is the correlation of Jesus Christ with Mercury. Mercury is a Roman deity. Mercury is also a planet. In the tropical zodiac, that is the popular Western sun-based zodiac, two signs are ruled by the planet Mercury: Gemini and Virgo. A crucial element of decoding is to look at birthdays primarily and zodiac signs, but to really get to the heart of it, look at the ruling planet of the zodiac sign. The ruling planet of Gemini and Virgo is Mercury. Jesus Christ is associated with the Roman deity Mercury because Mercury is a god man. He's a god and a man. A messenger from the spirit world to the material world. In the tarot card tradition, the card that represents the planet Mercury is card number 1, the Magician. The Magician is depicted in long flowing white and red garments that Jesus Christ is popularly depicted in. So the depiction of the Magician is dressed like Jesus. The 3 wise men that were given exclusive divine knowledge of Jesus' birth were called Magi. From Magi, we get the word magician, like the title of the card. The magician character that is dressed like Jesus on the tarot card represents the planet Mercury. So you see the relation there. Magician, Magi. The 3 Magi were the ones who had the knowledge of Jesus' birth.
Rambo.
In 1978...
Rambo, I just got to chime in real quick because I'm thinking of something because I've been looking at tarot cards recently. So in light of, the 20th card being the judgment card and everything that's taking place in 2020, and you could say after the Acts 7:6, prophecy, which has to do with judgment, which happened at the end of 2019, and the 19th card's the sun card, and the sun and the moon overlapping every 19 years. So the 19th card's the sun card, the 20th card's the judgment card, and the word judge is 20 as well, like time, like tarot. But then the 21st card is the world card, and we have this great reset event planned for the beginning of 2021, the year that Agenda 21 was focused on. So I'm sure if I went through and thought about more cards, I'd be able to make more connections, but I've been thinking about the first card of the tarot deck being the Magician, as you're talking about, and how magic equals 33, and we know how 2001 came 33 years after 68. And if you run alphabetic order in reverse, magic equals 102, and they said the attack lasted 102 minutes in this giant 33-year ritual from 68 when World Trade Center construction began and 911 was made the national emergency dialing code. So I was looking at that, and now what you're saying about Mercury, you've made the point already how Mercury equals 41, and 9/11 happened on the 41 date numerology, and Mercury has to do with travel, that's why the planes. So I'm just thinking about the gematria of magic in the ritual, and how 2001, when it happened, was the first year of the new century. So again, I hate to interrupt you, but the tarot card thing, man, I think there's a lot more there we can unlock too, but sorry, Rambo, go ahead.
No, I think you're perfect for tarot. What they say about tarot cards is there are certain rules that you have to know what card represents what planet, what zodiac sign, as well as other meanings. But the really gifted tarot card readers will put their own intuition into it. I don't know if you realize it, but you're a very intuitive person. I think tarot is perfect for you.
I'm not real good with
the meaning, but I think
I'm not real good with symbolism. That's not my strong suit. That there's a lot of symbolism on the cards I don't understand. So we need to have this is why Gematria Effect News Studios needs to be a thing. And if there's a table of us who all understand things, looking at it together, it would just be amazing.
So that's the thing. You can always study the meanings, but the key to tarot, an effective tarot reader, is that they have intuition. You're a very intuitive person. That's the hard part. Not everyone has that part. The easy part is memorizing the symbols.
I see.
But tarot card is for intuitive persons, and so you're encouraged to just derive your own meanings, which you've already been doing, and you'll see that it adds up. I think you're perfect for tarot.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. All right. So so in 1978. The Christian pastor and meteorologist Ernest L. Martin published The Birth of Christ Recalculated, in which he determined that the real birthday of Jesus Christ, who would not have been named Jesus, this is a Roman moniker, he determined that the real birthday of the quote-unquote Jesus was September 11th, 3 BC, and he used science. He was a meteorologist. He used science to determine it. He published the science. September 11th, 3 BC, as the real birth of Christ. In 1996, he also published The Star That Astonished the World. I put that in the article. There's a link to you can get the book online, especially if those are knowledgeable about astronomy and astrology. He really goes deep into that, but there's a link to that on my post. The Star That Astonished the World. That was in 1996, where he also shows his how he came to September 11th, 3 BC as the date of the real Jesus, who would not have been called Jesus, but that entity. So a September 11th birth makes Jesus a Virgo. The ruling planet of Virgo is Mercury. There's a reason the tarot card represents Mercury looks like Jesus. This is the pattern that I'm referring to that's been exhibited especially in recent years. The number of examples of Christ figures being Gemini or Virgo is undeniable. Starting with Exhibit A, the very first and most significant of all people chosen to represent Jesus, the long-haired, goateed, popular depiction of Jesus, which is not described in any scripture or historical text and has no basis in fact. That image was brought by the Roman Empire, who created the institution of Christianity, and they used one of their own as the image for Jesus. A member of the Nobiltà Nera, black nobility, Borgia family, the Illuminati family member, Cesare Borgia. He's the model for the image of Jesus. As the image of Jesus Christ, Cesare Borgia had to be a Virgo. His official birthday is September 13th. This is very significant. You'll see this number come up again and again with Jesus themes. September 13th, that is the birthday of Cesare Borgia, who's the popular image of Jesus. Again, the planet Mercury rules the sign of Virgo and Gemini. In recent history, who else has been depicted as a crucified Christ? Well, a lot of rappers, for whatever reason. Tupac Shakur, for example, who is not only a Gemini, but he died on the birthday of Cesare Borgia, September 13th. This is a very important date. In the movie trilogy, The Matrix, which has a Christian message, Neo is a Christ-like figure. At the end of the final battle scene of the movie, with Neo's arms spread out, his body lights up with a cross. I showed a graphic of that. So that's the most blatant example of it has a Christian message. And Neo does represent it. He's a Christ figure. So remember that the tarot card that is dressed like Jesus represents Mercury is the tarot card number 1. O-N-E. Neo is an anagram of one. In the movie, Neo's passport is clearly displayed. And it shows that Neo is a Virgo. And what is Neo's birthday on his passport? September 13th, the birthday of Cesare Borgia. I told you, this is a very important date, especially related to Jesus, Mercury, Virgo. Neo's birthday is actually the same birthday as Cesare Borgia, and it shows that on his passport. And so not just any actor was chosen to play Neo, who's a Virgo, the Christ-like character. Keanu Reeves is a Virgo, not by coincidence. He had to be to play it. And the Neo's passport expired on September 11th, 2001. So, and that's supposed to be the date of the grand ritual of the real birthday, maybe, of Christ. Who wouldn't have been called Christ? That's a Roman term, just means anointed. Yeshua, Yahushua, Emmanuel, those might have been his real names. But the Twin Towers were a Gemini symbol. Neo's real name was Thomas Anderson. The name Thomas means twin. So that's a Gemini reference, which is confirmation that this is a Mercury ritual, because what Gemini and Virgo have in common is Mercury. Who is alleged to have been the ringleader of the 9/11 attacks? Mohammed Atta. And what zodiac sign do you think Mohammed Atta was by chance? Mohammed Atta was a Virgo, born September 1st. As if that's not enough, 8:46, you just talked earlier about 8:46 a.m., which is when the big ritual started. It's a big ritual number with George Floyd, but with 9/11, it started at 8:46. In Jewish Gematria, also known as Latin Gematria, Virgo sums to 8:46. African Americans, and particularly hip-hop artists, have been disproportionately used as Jesus figures. I mentioned Tupac Shakur already, a Gemini who died on a Virgo date, Cesare Borgia's birthday. I addressed this in depth in a previous post titled Black Jesus, the Greater Ritual. I did a post more in depth on the rappers who portray Jesus. But here are other rappers portrayed as Jesus. Kanye West, Jesus. The most famous, the female most associated with Jesus Christ, besides his mother Mary, is Mary Magdalene. Now, Kanye West's wife is Kim Kardashian. In Gematria, compare Kim Kardashian and Mary Magdalene. It's a super match across 3 out of 4 ciphers. Like, what are the odds of that? Of course, Kanye West is a Gemini. Nas, he portrayed a crucified Christ in the video for his hit song, Hate Me Now. In Gematria, Hate Me Now sums to 139, like the date, 139, 13th September. Again, there's that date again. That's Cesare Borgia's birthday. And Hate Me Now sums to 139. Kendrick Lamar has been depicted as Jesus. Kendrick Lamar is a Gemini. Beyonce has literally been part of a church service with sermons based on her lyrics. So she's venerated along with Jesus Christ, literally in churches. It's called Beyonce Mass. It even has a website. If you want to look up Beyonce Mass. And her nickname is Bezos. Beyonce is a Virgo. Kodak Black, with 3 crosses tattooed to his face, is a Gemini. Jadakiss appeared with a crown of thorns on the cover of his 2009 mixtape, The Passion of Kiss. Jadakiss is a Gemini.
Rambo
appeared with a crown.
Rambo, let's not forget that at the beginning of this year, while this Jesuit stuff's going on, he did that album dedicated to his friend Ignatius. Remember that?
Oh, wow. That's a good one.
Yeah, so that just happened recently, too.
That's relevant, yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. No, that was a good contribution. That's a big one. But also a mace. Mace appeared with a crown of thorns on the cover of his 2005 mixtape, Crucified for the Hood, like the number 4. Crucified for the Hood. Mace appeared with a crown of thorns. Mace is a Virgo. Remy Ma appeared on the cover of her 2007 mixtape, Jesus Christ. She appeared as a crucified Christ. Remy Ma is a Gemini. Denmark Vesey appeared on the cover of his album in 2013 called Cult Classic. He appeared as Jesus. Denmark Vesey is a Virgo. One of the biggest hip-hop stars who's been presented as a Jesus figure is Nipsey Hussle. Now, Nipsey Hussle is neither Gemini nor Virgo, even though he's a Christ figure. He died at age 33. They say Christ died at 33. But you have to understand that Mercury, the Roman Mercury, is the same god as Hermes, which Rome inherited from Greece. So Hermes and Mercury are the same entity. Nipsey Hussle's real first name is Hermes, which means Hermes in his father's native Tigrinya. So Nipsey Hussle was named Hermes. He was named after the Mercury archetype, and he portrayed Jesus. Which brings me to current news, when last week, pastor, writer, and civil rights activist Shaun King tweeted about depictions of traditional Christian European Jesus. Having recognized the pattern for a while ago without knowing Shaun King's birthday, because of the subject matter of the headline grabbing news is about Jesus, I know he could only be Gemini or Virgo. Shaun King, born September 17th, is a Virgo. He's part of the ritual. I saw this one a mile away as soon as I saw his tweets. He's a Gemini or Virgo. Sure enough, he's a Virgo. Shaun King's statements are only the latest sub-ritual of a greater overarching Mercury ritual related to Jesus. Here's the irony. Shaun King was protesting the portrayal of a white Jesus. Since the popular image of white Jesus is based on Cesare Borgia, whose birthday is 13th September, written 139. In Gematria, white Jesus sums to 139. In Gematria, Shaun King sums to 139. How's that for irony? Again, Tupac depicted as a crucified Christ. He died on 139, September 13th. Hate Me Now has Gematria of 139. That's the video where Nas appears as a crucified Christ. What are the odds of all that lining up?
Well, apparently,
in fact, Shaun King has the same.
Go ahead, Rambo. We only got a few seconds left. Sorry, man.
Oh, okay. In fact, Shaun King has the same birthday as Kansas City Chiefs.
How funny the personal Jesus comes on. All right, we'll be right back, True Seeker. Sit tight.
Truth Frequency Radio is your #1 source for news and information without the hate, hype, and fear. We're proud to feature cutting-edge programs like Beyond the Veil with Chris and Cherie Geo, X Squared with Brooks Agnew, Paranormal Portal with Brent Thomas, Sharonism Raw with Karen and Nissa, Fearless with Frank Castle, Strange World with Mark Sargent, The Eye of Ra with Rob Castaldo, The Infinite Fringe with Billy Ray, Iron Iron Works with Josh Corey, The Kev Baker Show, and dozens more. Did you know you can listen from any telephone by dialing 641-793-7117? Or call into your favorite show, toll free at 833-TFR-LIVE. Uncensored talk and news you won't hear in the mainstream media. Truth Frequency Radio, your protection from deception.
Getting up to date. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. A group of top lawmakers will hear tomorrow from intelligence officials about reports Russia offered bounties to Taliban militants if they killed U.S. soldiers in Afghanistan.
Both the CIA director and the director of the National Security Agency are scheduled to brief the Congressional Gang of Eight on Thursday about reports Russia paid the Taliban for the deaths of U.S. and coalition service members.
At this moment, as I speak to you, it is still unverified.
White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany says it was the right decision not to brief President Trump on that intelligence, a decision made by a career CIA officer. The Gang of Eight is made up of Republican and Democratic leaders in the House and Senate and the top Democrats and Republicans on the House and Senate intelligence committees. The group is frequently briefed on sensitive national security matters. On Capitol Hill, Jared Halpern, Fox News.
Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell spoke about the reports this morning.
I've long warned that Russia and other adversaries will exploit any American passivity or retreat from this important region, whether in Syria or Afghanistan. The question is whether we will stand our ground and exert our influence or allow Iran, Russia, and terrorists to literally push us out of the region.
McConnell's opponent in the November election, Democrat Amy McGrath, is challenging McConnell to disclose what he knows about the assessments, tweeting that she's disgusted that nothing's been done. McGrath is a former Marine pilot. The House passing an extension of the Paycheck Protection Act that was designed to protect businesses hit hard by the pandemic through August 8th. It now heads to President Trump for a signature. California has closed bars, theaters, and indoor dining across most of the state as cases of COVID-19 rise again. Confirmed cases of the virus have risen nearly 50% in California over the past 2 weeks. America is listening to Fox News.
Wherever you are, make it Truth Frequency Radio.
Condition orange. Condition orange. Situation delta in effect. Please enter your agent number now, followed by the hash key.
We have to create culture. Don't watch TV. Don't read magazines. Don't even listen to NPR.
Time comes when silence is betrayal.
More for themselves and less for everybody else. But I'll tell you what they don't want. They don't want a population of citizens capable of critical thinking. They don't want well-informed, well-educated people capable of critical thinking. They're not interested in that. That doesn't help them.
Think for yourself.
This code has been compromised.
All right, welcome back, Truth Seeker. We got 2 hours left. We're joined by our guest, Johnny Cirucci, who I'm very excited to have on. Johnny, I apologize. Rambo got cut off by the commercial. I think he had 1 or 2 minutes left. Do you mind letting Rambo finish, and then we'll carry on with our part of the interview? Johnny? Hello? Well, Johnny is connected, but he seems to not hear me. While he's getting that worked out, I am just going to let Rambo finish his thought, and hopefully we can get this fixed. Rambo, sorry about the commercial there.
All right, thanks. All right, so when you have a lot of these Mercury rituals, the key number that emerges is the number 41. because Mercury sums to 41. It'll usually be at the heart of a lot of these rituals. Now, Sean King's birthday is 17th of September, 179. 179 is the 41st prime. I said that the Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl winning quarterback Pat Mahomes has the exact same birthday. 17-9, 179, the 41st prime. He appeared in the Joe Montana Bowl, which is between Joe Montana's two former teams, the Chiefs and the 49ers. Joe Montana is a Gemini. The 49ers are Geminis, established on the Gemini date. So there's a Mercury ritual there as well. So the 41s also was...
It's okay, Rambo. That was Johnny just testing. He was troubleshooting, but go ahead. Sorry about that.
Okay, so Sean King sums to 41. King sums to 41. That's all about Mercury. 41 is all over the September 11th of the Mercury ritual. Al-Qaeda sums to 41. Airplanes, Saudi Arabia, USA. Kobe Bryant, he died at age 41. Kobe Bryant sums to 41. He was a Virgo. It was a Mercury ritual. So I'll leave it there. Thanks again.
Well, very brilliant, Rambo.
Yeah,
and I think anyone who listens to that today, after what we just talked about, because I mean the whole Sean King is coming on the back of George Floyd and George Floyd, and now the trial date September 11th. It's just it couldn't be any more obvious, and really awesome job connecting the dots again. Great stuff. Thank you, Rambo.
Go ahead. Thank you.
All right, man. You have a good night. Okay.
Go ahead.
All right, Rambo, brilliant as always. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. And I believe we do have Johnny with us now. And, oh, what have I done there? Johnny, can you hear me? Shoot. Johnny, if you can hear me, I'm going to disconnect and call right back. I don't know what the glitch is, but let me hang up. And then we'll reset it, and we'll make it work perfect here. So, pardon me one moment. And let me call. Okay, so I disconnected the call. I'm going to call him right back. Should get this here. And again, this is the gentleman who schooled Eric 777, who's done a really great job for us in 2 shows. Johnny, test. There we go, Johnny. I hear you loud and clear. Thank you for joining us this evening. How are you?
I'm doing great, Zach. I'm doing really good. Now I'm talking to you. Sorry for these weird technical glitches, man.
No problem, man. I have them all the time with myself, with others, so it's the downside of the technology age. Yeah, Johnny, a lot of people in the community reached out and said they'd love to have you on the show. They said you're a great researcher of the Jesuits. I've had a major focus on the Jesuits the last several months after several years of pondering what might be the tip of the spear in this New World Order cabal, if you will. And in 2020, I feel like I'm seeing it with 2020 vision. It is the Jesuits, and there's been people out here for years, such as yourself, saying it's the Jesuits. And kind of what I'd like to talk to you about tonight, at least to start, is what was it you saw along the way that just made you go, that's it right there, it's these Jesuits, and then you just has caused you to keep on keeping on the path?
Well, first of all, Zach, I got to tell you that these kinds of questions are going to add to your technical glitches and difficulties. They're going to subtract to your numbers, and God bless you for your courage. It just is, it's one of those things, man, that, the more you get over the target, the harder the flak hits you. To answer your question, I was born and raised Roman Catholic and right-minded, conservative, an Italian Roman Catholic family. That put me into the military, and I ended up spending about 20 years in the military, in both the Marine Corps and the Army. And so I was heavily immersed in conservative. At the time, it's funny, Zach, I used to think of these mainstream conservative media outlets as alternative media, and in no way, shape, or form, whether as a matter of fact, it was their towing of the mainstream line that disenfranchised me from them. The big names, Limbaugh and Levin and Hannity and O'Reilly. And it's funny how many of them I never realized were Catholic or maybe had Catholic sympathies. It was really the advent of the Obama administration where those guys were clearly pulling their punches and accepting this guy, Barack Obama, who just popped up out of nowhere, and not really questioning his background. And it was at that point that I started to get, as I said, very disenfranchised with so-called conservative media. And it was before this. I should also say, I do have a bias. I am a born again Christian. I had a conversion in college back in 1994, and this had the positive effect of distancing me from my Roman Catholicism and gave me the ability to see Roman Catholicism as a very powerful political, I would say, insurgency. And that's really what it is. It's an insurgency. And so as a result, I've been able to step back and better examine the influence of Catholicism. So with that conversion to Christianity, and I would tongue-in-cheek tell friends and family, hey, yeah, I was 25 years a Roman Catholic, and then I became a Christian, because there's this consensus, there's this idea that Catholicism is just another brand of Christianity. And I'll tell you, man, as I'm looking back in hindsight, that is very much not the case. Sure. And so this also helped me to get a fresh perspective on my own Catholic upbringing. Now I look back on the fact that I went to Catholic grammar school and Catholic high school to stop and tap the brakes and go, wow, why do we even accept that the Roman Catholic Church has infrastructure in secular separation of church and state United States? In Ireland, the Catholic Church runs 90% of the schools. And that includes the majority of those that receive taxpayer support. It's absolutely insane. I have a snippet. Charles Manson was found by a Roman Catholic so-called chaplain and sent to Boys Town, where he had a bad experience and basically ran away. I have no idea what that bad experience might have been. I mean, this gets us down the whole so-called Franklin cover-up rabbit trail. We call it the Franklin cover-up because a Roman Catholic gatekeeper named John DeCamp was specifically given that job by the leader of the Inquisition at the time, Joseph Ratzinger, former Nazi. It's actually renamed the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith. John DeCamp admits let's back up for a second and say, John DeCamp, this is a guy who was personally involved in Army intelligence and worked for the Saigon station chief for the CIA, Bill Colby, devout Roman Catholics. As a matter of fact, the CIA, you step back, and I'm hoping to answer your question as I give this stuff out. How is it that I lit upon the Catholic Church as the top, the pinnacle of this threat to humanity, uncovering information that so you step back and you look, what are the biggest enemies? And I saw this as a soldier. I saw this as a Marine. My biggest enemies were never anything I faced on the battlefield. They were my own institutions. How is that possible? You dig a little deeper and you see, all right, look, come on. Do we really believe that Lee Harvey Oswald killed John F. Kennedy? Back and to the left. What does that mean? That means there's an entrance wound front and to the right of Jack Kennedy's head. back and to the left means that's where the exit wound was. That means that clearly the kill shot that took off half of Kennedy's head came from the front and not from the rear. So do we believe that Lee Oswald, or was exactly like Oswald said, and I've got that clip on my YouTube, I'm just a patsy. Open sources admitting, I have to pull up like a, what was it, like, I think Salon.com, admitting the CIA conducting LSD experiments on innocent American citizens to further its research on mind control. Are you kidding me? How is this? The CIA, oh my goodness. How about the CIA trafficking in drugs? Well known as the source of power for both. There's a fantastic book. It sits on my shelf by Terry Kent Reid. I think it's Compromise is the name of it. How both the Clinton and Bush dynasties were founded on mountains of cocaine flown in by the Central Intelligence. How is the most devastating attacks on the United States could only be dreamed of by foreign enemies that are being conducted by our own intelligence agents, our own institutions? Well, you look down deeper and you see that's possible. It's made possible because those institutions don't answer to the American people. They answer to a foreign malignant entity, the sovereign city-state of the Vatican. I say this all the time. The CIA, the Office of Strategic Services, founded by Wall Street lawyer and Knight of Malta, William Donovan. The FBI, founded by the great-grandnephew of Napoleon Bonaparte, Charles Joseph Bonaparte, a devout Roman Catholic. J. Edgar Hoover was the perfect puppet to put in the FBI and conduct the skullduggery that he conducted as someone who was a sexual deviant who had extreme sympathies for the Catholic Church. He actually sent FBI agents to a Jesuit retreat in Maryland. So it's big picture. I'm asking questions, and mainstream so-called conservative media is not answering those questions. So I've got to go to other sources, and I'm seeing this again and again and again. Roman Catholic influence. Still got you, right, Zach?
Yeah, yes, indeed.
Okay. Always making sure we don't have any more technical difficulties. Then I'm coming across these patterns. And the patterns include, easily enough, the overt Roman Catholic faith. Then on the side, you have people who have close relatives who are Roman Catholic. That's still an influence. Then you have a Catholic education or a Jesuit education. Well, you would think off the top of your head, well, gee whiz, Catholic Church has just a tremendous influence and infrastructure. We just said, schools, running schools everywhere. You yourself, Johnny, you've had a Catholic education. Why would you call this significant? Well, it's influence. It's influence. And we have a great example. We recently did a stream on child trafficking, sex trafficking, done by military profiteers, military industrial complex profiteers. Now, the one that was allowed to come before the cameras was a small corporation called DynCorp. DynCorp was allowed to be talked about because they're inconsequential. They still exist, by the way. They were bought up by General Dynamics. The big players, you're not going to hear about the big players. DynCorp's considered expendable the way Jeffrey Epstein's considered expendable. Who is it that outed DynCorp? Cynthia McKinney, one-time congresswoman out of Georgia. Cynthia McKinney came from a Protestant Christian family who wanted to make sure she had a good education, and they sent her to Catholic school. And she is the embodiment of what I say is the influence of the Catholic education. She was so enthralled with that influence that she herself intended to become a nun and really just settled for becoming a devout Roman Catholic. if you don't have something to supplant that influence, it is going to maintain a hold on you. And you may not even realize it, Zach. You may not even realize it. There's so many people that have had a Catholic education or a Jesuit education and don't even realize that they are basically agents for Rome. They come across something that makes them uncomfortable, and yet they willingly screen Rome out of it because they have this imperceptible warmth of memories. I mean, good grief, can it get any more foundational of school, especially high school and grammar school, or college too? Well, there's another side to that. It's not just the interaction and the influence. It's what clergy is doing with you. And I'm absolutely convinced of this. I may not have a lot of hard evidence on this, but I'm absolutely convinced that particularly Jesuit educators are meticulously tracking young talent and keeping records on, hey, this person could be very well used by us in this field. I really feel like that's the case where so many of these people, particularly those who have gone to seminary. Now, first of all, I no longer believe when we hear somebody's gone to seminary and not been ordained. You've got people like, talk about the John F. Kennedy assassination, David Ferry. David Ferry, Jesuit educated, I think at 2 separate institutions, who himself went to seminary. Now, we're told that David Ferry never completed, he was never ordained. But we're also told, if we dig deep enough, that he liked to parade around in a priest's cassock. Now, either he was really, really passionate about being a priest, or maybe he really was ordained. David Ferry, of course, the CIA pilot involved in the Kennedy assassination conspiracy, and also a sexual deviant? I think I could say homosexual without being too racy on it. Listen, I think that Lee Oswald was a sexual conquest of his, and that's part of how he was manipulated. It's a fact that Lee was participating in the Civil Air Patrol when David Ferry was there. And this was the beginning of the manipulation of Lee and what made the manipulation of Lee easy was that him being possibly a sexual conquest of David Ferry and others. He was involved in Clay Shaw and with Clay Shaw, and Clay Shaw was a known homosexual there. Clay Shaw spent World War II with Army intelligence in guess what city? Rome. And so you have this common thread of sexual deviancy and the United States government and the CIA and the Roman Catholic Church. And back up, let's pause, let's remember, this was the sitting president of the United States who literally had his brains blown out in broad daylight. Now, if it's not a lone crazed gunman, if it's an organized conspiracy, it's basically a military coup. And many researchers believe, and I agree with this, that there were multiple kill teams. I mean, heck, if you want to assassinate a high-value target, you're going to have redundancy. I also believe that there were multiple kill teams involved. Wow. Who's the biggest culprit possible? A lot of people go out there and say the mafia. Mafia's not big enough. The CIA alone had the power in the organization. Okay, so you have America's intelligence agency murdering a sitting president. It's a coup. How is that possible? Obviously, that intelligence agency doesn't answer to the American people. Who do they answer to? Well, all this evidence points back to Rome. I've been working all day. I did not fully, properly prepare for our interview because I've been working all day on another similar story. Cardinal Theodore McCarrick of Washington, D.C., critical diocese, right there in the nation's capital. Do I stop and go down that trail? Every country has a capital. What is a capital? It's named after one of the 7 hills, the legendary 7 hills of Rome. Capitoline Hill in Maryland, the colony created by Lord Baltimore.
Sure. On that thought, I'll just add in that out here in Seattle, the Jesuit University is on Capitol Hill, which in Gematria equals the same thing as Jesuit order, and John Carroll, which happens to be 54, like how he built Georgetown at age 54. But that's also where the whole autonomous thing is going, autonomous zone thing's been going on. So just about your Capitol Hill point, that translates across the country, where the Jesuit University is, Seattle U, in the Capitol Hill neighborhood.
I'll tell you, Zach, you have convinced me with your courage to put a spotlight on Rome. You have convinced me to spend resources of mine, really, in your work, and my friend Eric, and you bringing Eric on the show. Man, the Gematria angle, and there's no doubt in my mind that this is critical to the Jesuits. The Jesuits have a Gnostic discipline that is centuries old. This absolutely comes into play. Even if I say I don't want to take this seriously, guess what? I don't have a choice because they do.
Sure. Sure. What you just said a minute ago, I want to make a point on. I want to build on this point and see what you respond back with this. Do you recall when James Gandolfini died, who played Tony Soprano?
Vaguely, I vaguely recall of his death.
So
yeah.
James Gandolfini, the star of The Sopranos, the show about the mafia, the HBO hit show, he died unexpectedly while vacationing in Rome at age 51. And in Gematria, Rome equals 51, The Sopranos equals 51. And in more recent times, another star from that show, Frank Vincent, died. And Frank Vincent died September 13th. Now, what's interesting about these two men's deaths is that from Gandolfini's death to Frank Vincent's death, and again, these are both stars of The Sopranos, it was 221 weeks later on the nose, 221. And Frank Vincent died September 13th. Our last guest, Rambo, was just talking about the significance of September 13th and the history of white Jesus in the church. September 13th can be written 13/9 like 139. Tupac Shakur, for example, equals 139. He died on that date, and his last album is him on the cross like Jesus. But from the date that Tony Soprano died to Frank Vincent dying, again, 221 weeks later. And the reason that matters is because in Gematria, the Bavarian Illuminati equals 221, and it also equals 139. And the story is that Adam Weishaupt, who was Jesuit trained, established the Bavarian Illuminati. So now I'm connecting the deaths of two soprano stars who played this, you know, what was considered something very authentic in terms of showing kind of how the Italian mob worked, at least by critics. So you have this mafia movie, you have this the lead star dies prematurely in Rome. His death is synced with another star of the show. The numbers scream Bavarian Illuminati, which points back to the Jesuits. And again, the first death came in Rome. You know what? The music just kicked in. We'll be right back. But when we come back, I can't wait to hear what Johnny has to say. Sit tight, Cirucci.
Discover the extraordinary powers of intuitive healing with pain transmutation, a method of holistic healing for the human soul, body, mind, and emotions. If you are looking for answers and a deep understanding of how to help yourself and the people around you to live a happier, healthier life, this is the right place for you. Learn how to read your soul's history in the Akashic Records. Remove negative energy attachments from your astral body. And start the process of inner and outer pain transmutation. Join Pain Transmutation Community to get started on the path of intuitive healing. Change your energetic state. Manifest new and exciting experiences. Re-energize your life. And build inspiring connections with others in our community.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slows circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now for a special radio offer from Angioprim. That's angioprim.com/radio. ANGIOPRIM. Angioprim.com/radio or call 877-882-7221. That's 877-882-7221.
He was the deputy director of MI6, Britain's most senior diplomat. He was knighted by the Queen and in charge of thousands of highly trained spies. But he was also a member of the paedophile information exchange. He had 45 diaries full of sex fantasies with children. His friend was the private secretary of Margaret Thatcher. He strangled a child and hit another with his car. He raped young boys and organized orgies with children for other politicians.
The Enigma Channel, intelligent television for planet Earth. EnigmaTV.com.
No hate, no hype, no fear. We are TFR Frequency Radio.
All right, we're back, Truth Seeker. We got Johnny Cirucci with us, great Jesuit researcher. He's laying down some of what got him into this, and I did ask him the question, what led him to the Jesuits? He's given us a big perspective. Sounds like a lifetime of experience, which is usually the best way to come about your opinions and the things you think, from experience, from putting in time. But I was just giving him this question before we went to break. Sadly, we do have the commercial interruptions on TFR. But I was asking him what he thought about, since he brought up the mob and how it couldn't be them, they're not powerful enough, and then the church and the Jesuits. Again, in the time of my research, I've been, I wrote about this in my first book because I talk about the Tony Soprano and Frank Vincent thing. Seems like the church is behind, maybe even the organized mob, which is Italian, which would fit right in with the Catholic Church. But again, when the day that Tony Soprano died, Juneteenth, that was Pope Francis's 99th day of being Pope. June 19th, when Tony Soprano died, it was his 99th day. And remember, when you write out 13 as a word, it equals 99, like the Bavarian Illuminati was established with 13 families, May 1st, 1776, a date with 99 numerology. So you have this very clear Bavarian Illuminati ritual going on with the death of Tony Soprano, Frank Vincent, in Rome. And again, the Bavarian Illuminati credited the Jesuit Adam Weishaupt. By the way, Adam Weishaupt equals 51, like 5-1, like May 1st, the day they were established, like the Sopranos 51, like his age of death 51. So anyway, I just want to ask Johnny, not to throw him off track, but what's he think about the mob and the influence of the Jesuits? Pope Francis is the first publicly Jesuit pope when this rituals happened. What do you think about that, Johnny?
Well, look, let me just go ahead and underline and highlight your points. You got Gandolfini, who is a New Jersey boy, and yet at a very young age, an important number, 51, he dies not in his native Naples, but in Rome of an apparent heart attack. Man, and then you see that this is significant and that there are powerful people that would consider it significant. And boy, you're stepping back and saying, good grief, was his death manipulated in some way? I was listening to your program with Eric, and you brought up the point that the American office that is supposedly the brainchild of Jewish B.J. Novak ran for 201 episodes there, and supposedly taking place in Scranton, Pennsylvania, which happens to have a Jesuit university there. And so you've got that 201 again. So man, I'm a convert to the significance of this. I'm an absolute convert to the significance of this, and we can definitely say about these mafioso kingpins is that no matter what they do, no matter what dirt they've done in their lifetimes, they still get a big Catholic finish, don't they?
Right.
I think it tells you what the where the imprimatur is, that this is Rome blessing off on so-called organized crime.
So it seems, and just to bring it back to a familiar number that I just talked about, the star of The Office, John, what's his name, Krasinski, whatever his name is, the episode.
Yeah, Krasinski's good. Yeah.
The Office ran 201 episodes, and it's centered in Scranton, which has Jesuit schools there. One of those schools is Scranton Preparatory School, which happens to equal 139. Not only does the Bavarian Illuminati equal 131, so does Freemasonry, and so does America. And I've been thinking about the Jesuits being the fathers of modern Freemasonry. What's really interesting about that is modern Freemasonry was established in London City, which is pretty much Catholic Jesuit territory. And from the Jesuits being recognized by Rome in 1540 to the establishment of modern Freemasonry in 1717, that's 177 years later. And that matters because the Jesuit order equals 177, so does New World Order. We've been talking a lot about Catherine the Great, who saved the 201 Jesuits. Her husband was assassinated on July 17th, 1707. You were just talking about JFK. He was killed 177 days after his birthday, and I could say a million more things about that. But there's these numbers that are very repetitious in history. This whole thing with Black Lives Matter, to me, it couldn't be any more clear the Jesuits are behind it. But that really did start with Eric Garner, who was also killed on July 17th, 1707. So, again, their symbols and their numbers that they use are so repetitive. And to make a point, that same actor from The Office that ran 201 episodes, and again, 201 is another number that's relevant to the Jesuits. Again, Gematria is forwards and backwards. The Jesuit order is also 201 when you run it the other way. Catholic Pope is 201. Jorge Mario Bergoglio is 201, the name of Pope Francis, the first Jesuit Pope. Ignatius of Loyola, their founder, his name is 201. Pope Francis is literally showing that he's the humble Pope right now by staying in a more humble suite, which happens to be Suite 201, the first Pope to ever live in there, the first Jesuit Pope, Pope Francis, where 201 is this important number to the order. And not only is it Suite 201, but it's called the Domus Sanctae Marthae, which equals 201. And again, Catherine the Great supposedly saved these 201 Jesuits, and they've been calling 201 on pretty much every single major news story this year, from coronavirus to Black Lives Matter and beyond. And the only story I'm aware of this year that hasn't had 201 stamped on it was Kobe Bryant, which has the other Jesuit numbers all over it, and plus he was traveling from Catholic Mass when he died. So again, the reason I've seen that it's the Jesuits at the tip is because I was already considering them for years, but based on everything that's happened in 2020, I've just been like, oh my, it just all lines up too perfect. And in a way, I kind of feel dumb because I'm like, at the end of the day, they're the only ones that all this time that I've been talking about, they've had all this capability and history. So, I mean, to me, it just seems obvious that what's going on. But sorry, Johnny, I didn't have you on here to just keep talking. So you can reflect on what I'm saying, or if you have different thoughts, you can run with it.
I'm loving every minute of it. It really is so important and so critical. I applaud your honesty, man, your sincerity, because it's easy to just stay with some of these side players. Freemasonry, for instance, there's no doubt in anybody's mind that the Freemasons are key players. But if there is a power above Freemasonry, we are duty bound as true alternative media. Our purpose for existence is to let people know who's really behind the curtain, who's at the top of this so-called New World Order, all-seeing eye pyramid. And that's the information that I've seen. The hidden hand of Freemasonry. Meanwhile, as you dig deeper and you pull up sources like Edith Starr Miller and Helena Blavatsky and Freemasonry's own historians like Albert Mackey, all saying, hey, the Freemasons historian Albert Mackey saying, man, the Jesuits have just been manipulating us all this time. Mackey admitting that the Jesuits created at least the first 26 degrees of Freemasonry, if not all of them, in an effort to...
What about the fact that the Scottish Rite and Jesuits, they share the motto at the 32nd degree, which to me stands out because the Jesuits have the 32 sun rays coming off their logo. In Gematria, Christ equals 32 with what's considered the most pure cipher. In that same cipher, America's 32, Scottish is 32, 7/4/1776 has 32 date numerology. So in light of the Jesuits predating the Scottish Rite by 200 and some years, it seems very logical that at least through those first 32 degrees, the Jesuits must have had a hand in it for it to line up that way.
Well, and it is an ancient sun worship cult that has nothing to do with Christianity. I don't know what you've come across in the sun worship connection, but the fact that the 19th tarot card,
the sun
right?
card,
isn't that the sun card,
correct?
Right? Amazing connections and similarities that it really what is apparently more important is to ride the ancient power and to mask it or cloak it in a way that is the easiest to hide. So we have all of these. Look, you don't even have to be involved in this argument of so-called Protestant versus Catholic. All you have to do is see the discrepancies and the concerns of the predominance of worship of Mary. And then you look a little deeper and you see that worship of a female figure is actually very, very ancient, going all the way back to Nimrod and Semiramis, Isis and Osiris. As a matter of fact, that apparently is the basis for the Jesuit sigil. IHS is in the English, seems to be Isis Horus Serapis, and Serapis is an Egyptian Greek amalgam of Osiris and Apollo. So this also explains why you have American agencies like NASA with this quirky predisposition towards Greek mythology. What is going on there? Well, it's actually a very ancient Gnostic cult that is run by an ancient Gnostic power in Rome.
Very interesting. I'm taking some notes on some of the things you're saying right now because it's resonating with me. I know there's a lot more there. For example, Eye of Horus. What's the most pure cipher? Again, for people who are new here, what's considered the most pure cipher? Manly P. Hall put it out there decades ago, the Freemason. The alphabetic order with the rules of numerology. And for example, since we're talking about the Jesuits right now, just with this cipher, Society of Jesus equals 56. Anthony Fauci equals 56. The Jesuit who said all this was going to happen at Georgetown, the Jesuit University, January 10th, 2017. But coronavirus 56, Society of Jesus 56, Anthony Fauci 56, Washington, D.C. 56, which has been Jesuit territory longer than it's been the nation's capital. You know, mind control's 56, government is mind control, toilet paper's 56, just think about it. But Eye of Horus is also 56. And in light of, control and the eye, I got to do some more research here. But when I saw that Eye of Horus was the same, I said, okay, there's got to be something there with that. So you're saying Isis, Horus, and Serapis. And Serapis is actually something I'm not very familiar with. I've heard it before. But I'm going to do some research there. What more could you tell me about Serapis right now?
Yeah, it's sometimes been said by researchers that the English letters IHS stand for Isis, Horus, Set, but that's not accurate. Set is the uncle of Horus. Horus's father was Osiris, and as part of the mythology, Serapis is a mixing, and then of course we had Alexander the Great that had this huge influence in Egypt. And so there's this convergence. Serapis is the convergence of Egyptian and Greek mythology. And so he's part Osiris, part Apollo.
Okay.
And that's the important thing. Zach, even if you're a blue pill on the outside and you're hearing these numbers and you're saying, come on, you're taking this too far, pause. Let's talk about this guy, Anthony Fauci. Here you have the guy that is leading the charge for this coronavirus. And man, as far as us researchers are concerned, as far as I'm concerned, this has got to be 90% hoax and 10% murder. Purposeful. I'm hearing all kinds of stories about how hospitals look. Everything that we're being told to do, Zach, is counterintuitive to good health.
Of course.
Stay indoors. Don't go to the gym. Don't get fresh air. Don't get sunshine. Rebreathe your own carbon dioxide for months on end. These are effects. At no point in time have the healthy been quarantined.
Indeed. It's insanity. It's a major experiment. You're right on it. It's just such a logical point, and so many people aren't just seeing the most logical things throughout major events in history. And I just want to add on real quick, again, about that most pure cipher and all those things equaling 56. Again, for the person out there who is the blue pill or says, oh, come on. Again, it's more than letters and numbers. It's looking at what's going on. Donald Trump, the president of the United States, is Jesuit educated. He went to Fordham in 1964. That was 56 years before 2020 when this pandemic happened. You have Cuomo, the governor of New York, who's the 56th governor of New York. You have Gavin Newsom, a Jesuit, talking about how 56% of Californians are going to get coronavirus in 8 weeks. His exact words when he shut down or told people to stay at home on March 18th. And again, 56% in 8 weeks. What a specific prediction. 56% in 56 days. Well, it becomes laughable when you're looking at all the 56 coronavirus rituals that you've already talked about since January. You probably have 100 of them. And then now you have in March, Gavin Newsom coming out and saying this. And then from Gavin Newsom to then, you got about 1,000 more examples of 56 being put in these riddles. So again, by understanding the numbers and the rituals they work by, you can prove your point. Like for you, Johnny, I know you're saying all this already, but now you can go, look, they're using this number. It shows that when Donald Trump was at Fordham, they'd probably already picked him as the straw out of the bunch for this ritual at this time. And then you look at other things. You look at how Donald Trump was gloating at the World Economic Forum in Switzerland, who was the main sponsor of the Event 201 coronavirus outbreak simulation. Trump was gloating at the World Economic Forum January 21st, the exact same day the first case of coronavirus is confirmed in the big tech city, Seattle, Washington, where Bill Gates set up Gavi, his big pharmaceutical alliance for the decade of vaccines that's ending right now, to get vaccines all over the world. But okay, you have these rituals. And again, when you have the numbers, you can say, all right, they had this planned for this. Jeff Bezos, who's the biggest beneficiary of this right now in the world, who looks like he's the front of this government fascist company, which Amazon is. He just happens to be 56 years old right now. It's just these numbers are everywhere. And by identifying the numbers that they're using, you can say, look at how they've set the chessboard. Your guy Obama, why is Obama so important to the Jesuits? What was the symbolism of that? Well, he won the 56th U.S. presidential election. What are the odds that right now in Chicago, you have the 56th mayor, who is Lori Lightfoot, who has the same birthday as Obama, August 4th, 8-4, when Jesuit equals 84. United States of America, 84. Masonry, 84. The significant number because of George Orwell, who brought it to our attention, the member of the Fabian Society from 1884. So again, I just want to throw in there that by understanding this knowledge, which is relatively simple, I feel like every researcher, because almost anytime I tune into anyone's work, whether it's you or anyone else, I'm like, man, if this person was making that point about Gematria right now, they could really lay down and prove the structure of what they're exposing. So again, to me, that's the value of this knowledge. It allows you to see the plan and the plot and why numbers are used as the ritual, which is what I caught on to on September 11th when we had a national emergency on 911.
The combination is extremely powerful. Pardon me. It really fills in so many gaps. And I would tell people in my audience that may not appreciate the importance of it, I got news for you. They, the bad guys, the enemies, the Jesuits, they absolutely not only believe this, but seek it, manipulate it to make sure it falls into place. They do believe that when they have this convergence of significant numbers, that it's magic to them. It elicits interdimensional powers to help them accomplish their goals. I'll give you a word example. The sheriff in Maryland that sold the property to become the Capitol. He was a Roman Catholic by the name of Francis Pope. And then you have Pope Francis making his victory lap in 2015 on September
23rd.
24th, 25th, and I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, Pope Francis, he spoke on the White House lawn on September 23rd, and the speech started at 9:23 a.m. local time. 9:23 a.m. on 9:23, and that's the 266th day of the year. He's the 266th Pope. The Latin motto, IHS, Jesus Hominum Salvator, equals 266. Again, the rituals are just so number perfect that they do.
Even if you don't subscribe to this, Zach, look at this 846 stuff going on with George Floyd. So you've got Derek Chauvin, who keeps his hand in his pocket and his knee on the neck of George Floyd for exactly 8 minutes and 46 seconds. Come on. Are you kidding me? How can you not step back and say that was clearly scripted and manipulated, especially when you step back and find out that was it American Airlines Flight 111 flew into the World Trade Center at 8:46 a.m. on 9/11. So you don't even have to dig deep into Gematria to see this convergence of these numbers. And then you have Catholic clergy all over the country and all over the world urging on the chaos of complete controlled opposition, Black Lives Matter. I have such sympathy. I don't have anger or antipathy towards the protesters, towards Black Lives Matter. I have sympathy because they are getting played. They are getting played. These far left doctrines, Marxism and communism, they are not going to empower these protesters. These protesters have no idea. They're absolutely spot on. Yes, law enforcement as a whole is thoroughly corrupt. But it is not a simple matter of white cops down on black cops. It is much, much deeper than that. And I just came across this. I couldn't believe it when I saw it. Minneapolis city council members spending $4,500 a day of taxpayer money on private security. These are the same Minneapolis city council members who are pushing to defund the police. So you see how that works? You defund the police, you have utter and total chaos, and then the citizenry, desperate for order, are very excited when they see up-armored MRAPs and police officers in full camouflage and body armor with full assault rifles rolling down their streets. They cheer them on like they did at the Boston Marathon when they were searching for those two kids, going door to door in illegal searches, pulling people out of their homes. They get cheered on for it.
Right. Yeah, they set the trap and they let people fall into it.
So it's absolutely unbelievable. Let me throw some other stuff out there, see if this tweaks anything that you've got going on. Switzerland, Scotland. Two locations where the Templars went underground when Philippe le Bel of Philip the Fair of France suppressed them on, hey, you have anything on October 13th, 1307? Any of those numbers coming up? Black Friday? Any of that?
Well, there's a lot of stuff there with the Friday the 13th and 1307 and the history of Friday the 13th and de Malay being burned at the stake. There's a lot there. With regards to Switzerland, Switzerland is huge right now. So to go back to Donald Trump, the day the first case of coronavirus was confirmed in the United States, January 21st, that's when Trump was at the World Economic Forum gloating about his trade deal with China. And that trade deal was executed January 15th. Now, the official story is that the first person with coronavirus arrived back in the U.S. at Seattle's airport from Wuhan, China on January 15th, and then they were confirmed to have coronavirus January 21st. So January 15th, January 21st, the coronavirus story, Donald Trump's trade deal January 15th, in Switzerland gloating about it January 21st. Now, this is so fascinating for multiple reasons. One, in Gematria, all of these things sum to 222. World Economic Forum sums to 222. Wuhan coronavirus equals 222. Order out of chaos equals 222. New York equals 222. Trump was at the World Economic Forum on his 222nd day of his age. They were the main sponsor of Event 201 in New York. From the day that the towers fell, September 11, 2001, to the day the pandemic was declared, March 11th, 2020, exactly 222 months on the nose. 222, order out of chaos. Using this excuse to bring about a surveillance state, reason to take away our liberties, spy on us, have surveillance over us. Connected agendas. Oh, man, these commercials are coming up fast. We'll be right back, everybody. Sit tight. We've got an hour left.
Truth Frequency Radio is your number one source for news and information without the hate, hype, and fear. We're proud to feature cutting-edge programs like The Christopher Everard Show, The Covert Report with Susan Lindauer, Enemy Within Radio with Tom Barnes, Freaky Friday with The Woo Crew, The Gematria Effect with Zachary Hubbard, America's Evil Genius with Travis Cook, Phoenix Rising Radio with Phoenix, Quantum Connections with Lucky, and dozens more. Did you know you can listen from any telephone by dialing 641-793-7117 or call into your favorite show toll free at 833-TFR-LIVE. Uncensored talk and news you won't hear in the mainstream media. Truth Frequency Radio, your protection from deception.
A pause in reopening. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. California taking steps to stop the spread of COVID-19 as cases are on the rise.
Beaches up and down the state are closing for the holiday weekend. Governor Gavin Newsom ordered bars closed in 19 counties. Those 19 counties also have to close down inside operations in restaurants, wineries, and theaters. Zoos and museums are closing as well. Newsom reported another 110 people had died.
Please, I say this respectfully, disabuse yourself that somehow people are no longer died. I've been seeing some punditry in that space that the mortality rates have somehow dropped significantly.
And cases in California have increased almost 50% over the last 2 weeks, and hospitalizations went up 43%. Jessica Rosenthal, Fox News.
Vice President Mike Pence and members of the coronavirus task force, including Dr. Deborah Birx, were in Arizona today, as it also has seen a sharp rise in cases. Dr. Birx saying people need to pay attention to the guidelines.
Understanding that messages are not a standalone, that they have to translate into the very fabric of our communities so that people understand what their risks are, so that people can get tested, and so that people understand the importance of wearing a mask.
Vice President Pence saying the federal government is sending 500 health workers to the state. Arizona is seeing the highest rate of new cases in the nation. A day after Republican lawmakers suggested he wear a mask, President Trump appears to be more willing to do so.
I'm all for masks. I think masks are good. I would wear, if I were in a group of people and I was close.
You would wear one?
Oh, I would. Oh, I have. I mean, people have seen me wearing one.
The president speaking with Fox Business, telling Blake Berman he tried one on and thinks he looks like the Lone Ranger. New Zealand's health minister has resigned after recent slip-ups in the government's response to the pandemic and what he calls personal mistakes. America is listening to Fox News.
This is the Truth Frequency Radio Network. TFR. Truth Frequency Radio.
Condition orange. Condition orange. Situation delta in effect. Please enter your agent number now, followed by the hash key.
You have to create culture. Don't watch TV. Don't read magazines. Don't even listen to NPR.
Time comes when silence is betrayal.
More for themselves and less for everybody else. But I'll tell you what they don't want. They don't want a population of citizens capable of critical thinking. They don't want well-informed, well-educated people capable of critical thinking. They're not interested in that. That doesn't help them.
Think for yourself. Question authority.
This code has been compromised.
All right, we're back, Truth Seeker. We got an hour left. We got Johnny Cirucci with us. He was just asked if I had anything on Switzerland. I was in the middle of kind of a long-winded point about 9/11, the coronavirus pandemic 222 weeks later, Donald Trump being at the World Economic Forum of all days. the day the first coronavirus case was confirmed, who was the main sponsor of Event 201, simulating the coronavirus outbreak, which was a simulation that took place the same day the Military World Games began in Wuhan, China, a festival that has origins in Rome in 95, when the Jesuit order was formed September 27th, the day leaving 95 days left in the year to go after Martin Luther and the 95 Thesis. Anyhow, all this 222 stuff. The one thing I forgot to mention, if you write out Event 201 as words, it equals 222. And again, that was the simulation, and World Economic Forum 222 was the main sponsor. So there was that piece. And then the other big thing was that from the day that Trump spoke there to March 25th, when the bankers got rich, like those Swiss bankers, like those Knights Templar bankers in Switzerland, where the World Economic Forum is, where the World Health Organization is, where the United Nations is, where the Bank of International Settlements is, et cetera, from January 21st to March 25th, the day they got rich, was a span of 65 days. So from Trump being in Switzerland, the guy bought and paid for by bankers, to the day that they got rich with their big up to $6 trillion loan, 65 days. And that matters because Switzerland equals 65, Knights Templar 65, pandemic 65, year of the rat 65. Remember, in the TV show Nightfall, which is about the Knights Templar and their fallout with the church, in the 6th episode, they mention how they have 64 Templar orders in Europe, 65. And season 2 of Nightfall came out on March 25th, 2019, 1 year to their windfall in Switzerland with the bailout with the U.S. and other world governments. Keep in mind, March 25th is the 85th day of the year. Templar equals 85. The invasion of Afghanistan, the new crusade after 9/11, that was on the day leaving 85 days left in the year. It was 26 days after 9/11. Papacy's 26, like crusade is 26. So yes, all sorts of major rituals. And to build on that 65, 3 years to the day of Trump being there, Bill Gates was in the same place talking to the World Economic Forum. And Bill Gates was talking there in Davos, Switzerland, which equals 94, like Seattle, Washington, like Roman Catholic Church 94, like how he got how he got married on the first day of 1994. That was the year his mother died. And his father is currently 94 years old while the pandemic is taking place. And if you go back to the day that Bill Gates launched his decade of vaccines, January 29th, that was his 94th day of his age. That was done in Switzerland. Roman Catholic Church 94, Davos, Switzerland 94, again Seattle, Washington, his home city 94. Don't forget the construction firm from Seattle built the World Trade Centers that opened April 4th, 73, the 94th day of the year, and World Trade Center equals 94, Terror 94. So, again, just these numbers used so systematically. Oh yeah, I got a lot on Switzerland and the Knights Templar, and there's even more than that. But again, Johnny, I'm talking too much, so you have the floor again.
No, I'm loving every minute of it and taking copious notes as well, Zach. Hopefully no one is doubting us when we are tracing all this back to Rome. And I like to step back and give big picture frequently for those who might be stopping in from outside, what we might call blue pills. Event 201, let's not forget the whole process of what we would term a false flag. Very frequently, these powerful governments and agencies will do test runs, and this is always helpful to confuse first responders. They don't even know, is this another test? We just did a test last week, last month, last year. Is this another test, or do we have an active shooter? Do we have an active virus? Do we have whatever the supposed threat is? So the fact that Event 201 was so close to this outcropping of the supposed this virus, man, I'll tell you, it really amazes me that here I am convinced that this is basically a complete and total hoax. There's nothing here. And even if it weren't a hoax, these numbers that the government is putting out as reason to destroy lives and businesses, there's 100 people dead in the whole state. There's 100 people dead from heart disease in a state. Are you kidding me? You are destroying lives and livelihoods, making people conform to these ridiculous, outrageous requirements and restrictions over nothing. You know, these top states that are pushing the worst of these viral tyrannies, the Cuomo family in New York, far left Roman Catholic dynasty. We're supposed to believe that not only do we have Jesuit trained Andrew Cuomo, friend of Jeffrey Epstein, and also apparent sexual deviant. I like to call him, pardon my language, Nipples Cuomo, because of the evidence of what the polo shirt that he wore for one of his coronavirus updates. Clearly, that he's a proponent of body piercing. So here you have an extreme sexual deviant who probably is very, very manipulated, blackmailed. Just found out the other day, I think it was today or yesterday, I found out that Albany, the Diocese of Albany, which is also the capital of the state of New York, is a hub for sexual abuse for the Catholic Church. A disproportionate number of attacks and abuse occurring there in Albany, and it made me wonder, well, gee whiz, is there some sort of a trafficking angle? Are children being provided to Cuomo, and is that why he's really on board with whatever he's being told to do? Some of the most outrageous. I mean, I got a news report that they're actually being told to arrest people driving into the state without a state license plates from supposedly high corona positive numbers. Are you kidding me? Is that really I've seen it. There's a local news report. Would you dare to arrest? Is this the Gestapo? Arizona's another one. Doug Ducey. They're in Arizona. Another Jesuit-trained interloper. Ducey from a mafia family in Ohio. They're in Arizona. You know, when you have Catherine II, so-called Catherine, renamed Catherine the Great by Arrowette, Voltaire, another incognito Jesuit, for all we know, could be having been an ordained Jesuit. You know, you reminded me, we talk about Templars at odds with the Catholic Church, Voltaire at odds with the Jesuits, Weishaupt at odds with the Jesuits. You know, these agents of the Catholic Church do some of their best work when they're supposedly at odds with the Catholic Church. Meanwhile, you have entities that have the power of death and destruction, allowing them to live and do their jobs. And in the long run, you look back and say, wow, they were supposedly at odds with the Catholic Church, yet they were completely on board with the agenda. So it sure looks like they weren't at odds after all. Jerry Brown there, prior to Gavin Newsom, supposedly almost a Jesuit priest. His father also a governor. You have these ruling elite families, Roman Catholic family, the Cuomo family, Mario Cuomo, governor of New York. Now you got Andrew Cuomo, governor of New York. You got Chris Cuomo working for CNN, and he supposedly contracted the coronavirus.
Right. By the way, his name equals 56. Chris Cuomo, like coronavirus. It's just such a joke. To go back to a point you made a few minutes ago about just how the numbers just don't add up, I'm just going back to this story from Chris. Is it Cuomo? You're closer, so you must say it right. I always say Cuomo, but it must be Cuomo. Andrew Cuomo, the governor, on March 9th, so this is 2 days before the World Health Organization declared a pandemic. On that day, he announced that New York was up to 142 cases, and he also announced that Rick Cotton, the head of the Port Authority in New York, had contracted the virus. What's hilarious is with the 142 cases, Rick Cotton in Gematria equals 142. So does coronavirus. And this has been another big number with the coronavirus ritual. Year of the Rat equals 142. The NBA suspended play on the 142nd day of the season. It's now resuming July 31st, which is 142 days later. That's also the day Ignatius of Loyola, the Jesuit, died in history, July 31st. Just like how the baseball season's going to end on September 27th, the Jesuit birthday. Brett Kavanaugh told us how much he liked beer on that day, the good Jesuit prep boy. But 142, just another number all over with the ritual. NASCAR returned on the 142nd day of the year. The golf tournament they had between Mickelson and Tiger Woods was named 142, and a few other things. But just that, aside from what's encoded in 142, just think about that. New York had 142 cases 2 days before the pandemic was declared. I mean, how many people died in New York from a car accident that day, or a heart attack, or eating too many Cheetos? I mean, the whole thing has been a mockery from the beginning, but then when you know the code, you just see how they laugh at us with these nonsensical stories encoding their numbers.
What I quickly looked it up, Zach. The total population for the state of New York, 19 million people in the state of New York. Right. And supposedly we're going to conduct these unbelievable outrages that are destroying lives. Small businesses are being erased. And people have asked me on the outside, oh, come on, Johnny, why would they possibly make this? Why would they conduct this hoax? Have you seen how many billions of dollars are being made by these elite? And in the meantime, those who are actually producing, who are sweating, who are working for a living with the small businesses, family businesses, are being wiped off the planet, are being completely wiped out. And even better, when the government goes through the motion of throwing crumbs at these people whose lives are over, their businesses are done, they get scarfed up by who else? The Catholic Church and big business interests. Unbelievable. How is it that Catholic parishes are actually able to get these small business loans and the small businesses don't get them? Guys like Bezos and Gates making billions of dollars right now. Are you kidding me?
It's sick. I keep trying to get people just to think about how the first case was confirmed in Seattle, where the big tech companies are, where the two richest men are in the world, Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos, who are two of the biggest beneficiaries off of this. Just that's one of those things that should be slapping everybody in the face, but no one's talking about it. And it's really interesting to go back to the year 1995. Bill Gates was declared the world's richest man on what would have been his mother's birthday, who had died the year prior. And that was the year Amazon was established in 95. And again, that's a huge number with the Jesuits, formed to pretty much destroy the followers of the 95 Thesis against the Catholic Church, and also established by Rome September 27th, the day leaving 95 days left in the year. So, again, you don't really have to go deep, and I'll admit the stuff I do, it's to really connect the dots, but you don't have to go as deep. Most of the stuff they do to us, it's just slapping us on the face on a surface level, so.
Yeah, a couple of notes that I made was, as you were talking earlier, the beginning of the so-called Operation Enduring Freedom, global war on terror, and the invasion of Afghanistan took place on October 7th, which was a commemoration of the Vatican's Battle of Lepanto and their victory over the Ottoman Turks. Also, in big picture, Anthony Fauci and his past. Here he's the leading voice for Jesuit-trained Donald Trump, who Avery Dulles, one of the most powerful American cardinals of all time, who is the son of Secretary of State John Foster Dulles, the nephew of CIA Director Alan Dulles. These are supposedly Protestant, Christian, Presbyterian family, and yet they produce this powerful Jesuit cardinal. And I've got a researcher who found that it was Avery Dulles that told Donald Trump, hey, you know what? You're getting a great education here at Fordham. You should leave Fordham and go to the University of Pennsylvania, the supposed non-Catholic University of Pennsylvania. And I've got a source that says the University of Pennsylvania is secretly run by Jesuits, which is why you have such a strong influence there. And alumni like not just Donald Trump, and he's had his daughter Ivanka do the exact same thing, 2 years at Georgetown and then transferred to University of Pennsylvania. Noam Chomsky, the powerful far-left Jew, this brilliant linguist, and of course The Jesuits are known for their control, their command of languages. It's pretty easy to see, especially a guy like Noam Chomsky, who lived with the Jesuits in South America, getting all 3 degrees at the University of Pennsylvania. But just trying to give a step back and give big picture to reinforce and encourage people that, hey, man, all roads are leading to Rome for a reason. We're not making this stuff up. And something else, it's easy to get sidetracked, but if you're able to look past it, you can see the influence. We talked earlier about Freemasonry. Something else that is very contentious that comes up in all the debates is the role of Judaism and Jews. And you made a great point asking Eric in your interview that these were the 2 powers that Martin Luther attacked. I have found, really, since the suppression of the Templars in 1307, that the minds in Rome realized with how easy it was to track down the Templars by their names and their faces, that they needed plausible deniability. And here's what I have seen as the division of power. There's absolutely no question that some very key positions are held by people who happen to be Jewish. No question. But what can be asked is, what are these positions? And are these positions the real power positions? You may see a predominance of Jewish names and faces in Hollywood or in music, but you're not seeing them at the Pentagon. You're not seeing them at the CIA. And if you allow my point that education is a position to be influenced, then we've got a very large number of people who are Jewish getting Catholic and Jesuit educations and being influenced by them, and none of the reverse. I couldn't even tell you what a Jewish school was. There might be 1 or 2 out there, but there are a tremendous number of Catholic schools and Jesuit schools that are educating people. As a matter of fact, I have a whole file on it. I should pull it up right now. That the number of people that have been influenced that are falling into this category that we're talking about here. Hang on, I'll get you some names and some facts here on who is educating who. And this is also by interest we have this on these key players. Johann Adam Weishaupt, with a converted Jewish background. Bob Barr. Oh, what a great story Bob Barr is. Hyper devout Roman Catholic. Bob Barr's dad was a Jew who converted to Catholicism. And Bob Barr's dad was the headmaster at Dalton. As a matter of fact, Bob Barr's dad helped bring in Jeffrey Epstein because he was just so good with the kids and just such a great math teacher. And then shortly after that, he left. And what an amazing connection there. So Epstein, high profile, clearly Jewish, and yet Epstein goes with Ghislaine Maxwell and has a private audience with John Paul II, Pope St. John Paul II. You'd never know that unless you were able to see some of the photographs from his Manhattan apartment, where he proudly displays his audience with the Pope there. Let me come up with some other names here for you. Oh, let's see here. Education. Gloria Allred, Loyola Law, Jesuit educated. The big name in feminism. Let's see here. Of course, Noam Chomsky, University of Pennsylvania, but you have to accept what I'm telling you about the Jesuits running University of Pennsylvania. Joseph Stalin. Joseph Barasionius Druskashvili means of the Jewish people. He's a converted Jew who went to a secret Jesuits seminary in Tiflis, Georgia. Dianne Feinstein went to a convent, Sacred Heart Convent. You see big names in Hollywood all the time. who are getting Jesuit education. And I'll tell you, there's nothing like a winning combination. Mila Kunis, Leonard Nimoy, his son, they went to Jesuit. Joe Rosenthal, the guy that took the iconic photograph on Iwo Jima. Sumner Murray Rothstein, renamed himself Sumner Redstone, who ran CBS, Viacom, Paramount, Georgetown Law. I'm telling you, man, that these are influences that I'm not seeing the reverse of. And so trying to answer that question, and it's unfortunate, Zach, that this is a very heated debate. People are not able to properly assess the facts, the names, places, and dates, because they get too filled with emotion. And I think that Rome understands this. I think that Rome knows this, and as a result is happy to encourage raw ethnic hatred so that people lose the ability to see the big picture. And instead, they just want to get frothed up with racism and not be able to see it. But the question is, what is the influence? And I'll tell you, from what I have seen, we Christians know that there is this symmetry, at least according to maybe even Josephus. I think Josephus mentions this too, the symmetry before Pontius Pilate. Certainly, it's mentioned in the Christian Bible of how the leading Jews had to go and beg Pontius Pilate to put Jesus to death. I'll tell you, I use that as a metaphor and an analogy to explain the dichotomy of power that I have seen as a researcher, and where it is that these key Jews are falling in place. They have to kiss the ring. We've seen this in Hollywood. We use this example of The Office. You got this B.J. Novak, this Jewish guy, and yet you couldn't have a more overtly Roman Catholic show than The Office. So what is going on here? Well, what apparently is going on is these big names and these Jewish names in Hollywood know that in order to be successful, to get ahead, they have to so-called kiss the ring. And it certainly seems to me what's going on. I know this is a very contentious issue, but I also believe that Rome knows this and encourages people to immerse themselves in racial hatred and not pay attention to the names, places, and dates. These are not Jews that founded these institutions. The NSA, why is the NSA located in Maryland? Why is the CIA, the number of, let me pull up some names, the number of Catholic influences at the CIA? Not just, we tend to get lost in focusing on the chief executives. How about assistant directors, deputy directors, associate directors? Sometimes this is the real power behind the star, the spotlight. Avril Haines, deputy director for Obama. Also, Obama Department of the National Security, NSA, Georgetown Law. CIA deputy director Vernon Walters went to Stonyhurst. The very first director of the CIA, when it was transformed off the OSS, Army General Walter Bedell Smith, devout Roman Catholic. CIA Director John Brennan, Jesuit, educated at Donald Trump's Fordham. Call him the drone executioner because insanely, illogically, it seemed like he was conducting these drone operations in a way that would cause maximum collateral damage. Well, that's because his job was to perpetuate the war on terror, not to end it. That's the whole purpose for Guantanamo Bay. Step back. When I was deployed, I went to Abu Ghraib. I was there in Abu Ghraib. Unfortunately, I was not privy to any of the prisons there. But you step back, Zach, and you look at what happened at Abu Ghraib. Come on. Was that soldiers going nuts, or was that the Inquisition? Sure, it was obvious it was the Inquisition. This whole idea of waterboarding can be traced back to the Inquisition. It was a method of the Inquisition. It was part of the game that they like to play to not draw blood. They can cause it.
Oh, Johnny, the music just kicked on. We'll be right back, everybody. Sit tight.
valerian, and milk thistle. Extendivite feeds our body with the right nutrients to keep us healthy. Just listen to what Arthur has to say.
I was just calling to tell you what a great product you have. I had used this about 10 years ago after I had congestive heart failure. And it fixed me up and got me going for the last 10 years. Lately, I've been having heart trouble again, so I placed another order because this was the only thing that ever worked. And I just wanted to let you know that you have a great product.
To order, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
So, you love talk radio, then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
If you have hard water, the Lime Scale not only leaves white spots, it clogs pipes and breaks down appliances, costing you hundreds of dollars in energy and wear. Eliminate Lime Scale and other water issues like brown staining and bad odors with HydroCare water products available from Wave Home Solutions. Wave's affordable water systems don't use salts or chemicals. You'll love the way your water tastes, smells, and looks. Satisfaction guaranteed. For more information, go to bestwater123.com. That's bestwater123.com.
Travis Cook, America's Evil Genius, here to invite you to join us every Tuesday afternoon here on Truth Frequency Radio. No, on our show you will not see a bunch of three-piece suits or a cocktail party, and you certainly won't see a bunch of inside the Beltway banter. But you will see eye-gouging, crotch-kicking, no-holds-barred political discussion, the likes of which you won't see anywhere else in media. America's Evil Genius. We come to you every Tuesday from the outskirts of war-torn St. Louis, Missouri, where there's always a good race rider sex scandal just around the corner. Join us every Tuesday, 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central, and noon on the left coast right here on TFRLive.com. America's Evil Genius, Travis Cook, on TruthFrequencyRadio.com.
You're listening to the Truth Frequency Radio Network.
No hate, no hype, no fear.
All right, we're back. We got interrupted by the commercial there. We got 30 minutes left with Johnny Cirucci. And sorry, Johnny, you want to take off where we were?
Yeah, that commercial snuck up on us, pulled the rug out from underneath of us. Just, again, trying to back up and give big picture and give credence to our contention that Rome is the pinnacle. Rome is the top. Although you see these other influences that it's very easy to put all of the importance upon them, whether it's the mafia, whether it's Freemasonry, whether it's a Jewish influence or so-called Zionists. And yet, Zach, we're still able to see the umbrellicum, the overarching umbrella of the influence of Rome. And of all those, which one you might be able to make a case for Judaism being old, but as far as a kingmaker, there's no comparison.
Rome, I agree. I've come to agree full-heartedly, and I feel like I should have made this conclusion long ago because I've had all the pieces there. Again, from my perspective, at the end of the 16th century, that's when the Catholic Church gave us this calendar system. At the end of the 16th century, that's when English, which is credited to a Catholic monk from 1,000 years ago, but the end of the 16th century, that's when it was standardized as the 26-letter alphabet we use today with the spellings. And I've been showing how from that time in history up to now, everything has been executed by this code. So in light of both things coming from the church, and again, this whole practice of letters and numbers being a spiritual practice, which comes from Kabbalah, which supposedly the Templars got their hands on at the end of the Crusades, it just all makes so much sense. And Johnny, I asked Eric about this last week, and just so I don't forget, because we're running out of show, the moon landing. In light of discovering how important 201 is to the Jesuits, realizing that the moon landing was July 20th, 1969, the 201st day of the year, it just got me wondering. I know that there's a huge Masonic history with NASA and the moon landing. I've talked about that for years, but then realizing that they're under the umbrella of the Jesuits, I start to see the greater 201 significance. And just in recent history, we had this special SpaceX mission that launched at 322. But that mission that supposedly was the first private space company using NASA's launch facility to put a vehicle in contact with the space station, all this, what's funny about that is from from SpaceX's May 30th launch to the anniversary of the moon landing is 51 days later, and this will be the 51st year anniversary of the moon landing, and in Gematria, moon equals 51. So does conspiracy. Some people contend Area 51 is where Stanley Kubrick filmed the moon landing, but as we just learned earlier, Rome is also 51. The moon, the Rome, the 201st day of the year, the 51st anniversary. You have any great information about the Jesuits and NASA or the space program?
I will tell you, Zach, this is very critical to Rome. This idea of how we perceive our reality, our environment. Rome has been deeply involved. When Rome broke into China with Jesuits, that was the first thing that the Jesuit Matteo Ricci did, was he took over the calendar and the observations and astronomy for China. Our calendars, that you already mentioned, been Roman for millennia. The calendar of Julius Caesar was replaced by the Gregorian calendar of Jesuit Christopher Clavius. And some of the names and all over NASA, I lump in the Demolay for boys, because this is a convergence of Roman Catholicism and Freemasonry.
Walt Disney children, Day Malay, yeah, it all makes too much sense. When I first started this, I had this Day Malay guy that was after me every single day trying to tear me down. Yeah.
Still a powerful influence. The number of names, huge influence, including Bill Clinton, but very large number involved in the space effort. You've got astronauts Frank Borman, Neil Armstrong, Vance Brand, and then you have a Catholic or Jesuit influence such as astronaut Alvin Drew, also African-American, and Catholic and Jesuit trained. Jack King, the voice of NASA, Jesuit trained at Boston College. Jack Swigert, test pilot for Apollo 13, Regis Jesuit High School. Janet Epps, Jesuit trained CIA. And also some of the games I like to play with astronauts is they bring in twins. Jeanette Epps has an identical twin. This way they can play games whether or not somebody is supposedly in space. And then you see them here on Earth. Oh, that's not them. That's their twin. Lisa Nowak, I don't know if you remember this. Lisa Nowak, part of a psychotic love triangle, and she went berserk, and there was an arrest, and there was just a craziness. It's the similar kind of craziness you see in so-called science or an endeavor like being an astronaut. She's Roman Catholic. Her main name is Caputo. Paul Scully Power, a Knight of Columbus. And as far as I'm concerned, is Elon Musk, the SpaceX. I think that's an assumed identity. I have not spent a lot of time researching, but he's got his pop musician female that he's dating, Grimes. Of course, she's a good Catholic girl. Tom Mueller, part of his SpaceX operation there, he went to Loyola Marymount. So, yeah, there's a big influence. Hey, look, all the way back to the very beginning of this revolutionary change in how we view our space and cosmology. You've got these Vatican observatories. Look, one of the biggest names in astronomy, Nicholas Copernicus, was a Roman Catholic priest and a Vatican mathematician. We're supposed to believe that Galileo Galilei was persecuted by the Catholic Church. He wasn't. He was invited by the Jesuits to teach at the Collegio Roma, the premier Jesuit university that Loyola himself created there. And supposedly when he was persecuted and prosecuted, he was then put on house arrest. I don't know about you, Zach, but I know the Jesuits could have done a lot worse to him if they wanted to than just house arrest. His own daughter became a Roman Catholic nun, and they remained very close through to their death. As a matter of fact, they're buried together, which is very creepy as far as I'm concerned. But this is the kind of convergence of dedication to Rome and deviancy. I forgot a name there. Gene Kranz, Apollo 11, St. Louis Jesuit College.
Sure.
Just a whole slew of names and influences, and you go back even further to guys like Jack Parsons and Aleister Crowley.
Sure.
Jack Parsons, supposedly the guy that brought the breakthrough so that rockets could make it into space, and here he's deeply involved with Aleister Crowley, and Aleister Crowley, one of his greatest workings done there. Where else? In Sicily, where he's conducting these sex experiments, trying to open doorways to interdimensional agencies. Yeah, man, the entire look. This coronavirus thing has made me now. I question everything, Zach. Medicine, science, archaeology, astronomy. I am shocked to find that there is no end to the lies. Every single venue that we have trusted has lied to us.
Sure, absolutely. And when I first started with this research, one of the things that just stood out to me, back in the day when I did all this with pen and paper by hand, I just noticed 2 3-letter words that had this same value, this very significant value. The word God and the word lie. They both sum to 26, which is this very special number, the name Adam 26. Mankind made in the 26th verse. God equals 26 in Hebrew and English and so on. I just thought, wow, it's like, because I already understood that the people who are controlling this world, the lie, and probably after the lie, their probably next most useful tool is the fear and the threat of death. Or financial punishment, but just lies everywhere. And it's like playing God over the world with lies. And once upon a time I did a presentation on this, and someone said I was a shill because I showed the word lie and God next to each other. And it's like, I wasn't making the point that God is a lie. I'm making the point that these people are using this code that is associated with God to control the world with programmed lies, to keep us in a box in darkness. And
it's inarguable. Yes, Zach, let me back you up. And here I am, a Christian, and I'm going to back you up with what you're saying. At the bare minimum, you have to acknowledge that religion and fear for if you believe, your eternal soul. As a matter of fact, there are no powers greater in the ability to manipulate an individual. You can get a person to commit unbelievable crimes if they believe the eternal destination of their soul is at stake. And Rome knows how to play this game over centuries, and it uses modicums like methodology like the confessional, getting key, important, powerful people to express their innermost guilt and regret over sins and mistakes. Christianity, at its heart, at its finest, is a decentralized faith. Christians are taught through the Protestant Bible that you don't need a hierarchy. You don't need a priest. You don't need clerics. You don't need go-betweens. You don't even need sacred groupings and meetings. All of that is actually quite pagan, quite ancient. The idea of going to a sacred place on a sacred date repeatedly really has nothing to do with Christianity. It is the power of the Catholic Church, and that's why some of the best and biggest atheists, like Voltaire, are arguably Jesuits. Because what the Catholic Church, the Jesuit-controlled Catholic Church, wants very much to do is to have people in fear for their soul, and for those who might be warm towards Christianity to have their key players attack that, make them question it, so that the only reliable source for so-called Christianity or Christian doctrine is the Catholic Church. And they also love to do this with their proxies and their agents, impersonating Christians, impersonating key Christian people in a very humiliating fashion. Guys like Benny Hinn, who I have traced to a papal audience in Rome. A lot of these televangelists with very warm ties towards the Catholic Church, making very large amounts of money and then humiliating Christians. Well, if you're humiliated by these people and you're questioning your Christianity because these atheists are making great points, who else are you going to turn to? That's exactly what Rome wants. And not to offend Catholics who might be listening, but there is no precedent in true Christianity, basic Christianity, for this hierarchy of clergy and go-betweens and intercessors and vicars of Christ sitting on the supposed throne of St. Peter. This is all a manipulation, a power structure. And I've been spending all day on how this convergence of government and pedophilia in the office of Cardinal Theodore McCarrick. I had no idea that Theodore McCarrick was going to China on behalf of the United States State Department, but he was for decades and making inroads. And it's fascinating, Zach, to see what China was doing. China was attempting. Now, we're supposed to have, we have these reports of suppression of Catholicism in China. This is very similar to, I don't know if you saw the Scorsese movie Silence. We're supposed to have this sympathy for the suppression and the torture of these poor Jesuits in Japan, the suppression and torture of these Catholic clergy in China. Well, the follow-on question is, well, are these governments conducting these crackdowns because they just are evil and they just hate Catholics? Or did they have cause to question whether or not the Jesuits and the Catholic clergy were basically a military insurgency trying to overthrow these governments? And that is what was going on. The story behind Silence, you're not going to be told by good Roman Catholics like Martin Scorsese, was that the Jesuits were caught undermining the authorities in Japan. They were free to proselytize as much as they wanted to before then, but when they were found to be enemy agents of a sovereign power that was making big money in trade in the Far East, that's when they were thrown out, and that's when they refused to go. So what happens? You're the government of Japan. You're the shogun. You're the daimyo there, one of the daimyos there. You realize that these Jesuits are actually creating an insurgent army of Catholics that they can command and who are going to be fanatically dedicated because they believe their souls is dependent upon it. You realize they're trying to undermine your authority. You warn them, stop. They refuse to stop. You then kick them out of your country. They refuse to go. They go underground. They continue in their insurgency. What do you have left but to arrest, torture, and execute them? That's all the background behind the silence, but all you're told is that, hey, these poor Jesuits were persecuted and tortured and killed for no good reason. No, they were found to be an invading army, and they are to this very day. And people just fail to see the power of the Catholic Church as an insurgency. And let me tell you something, getting back to the sexual deviancy, the perversion, that is the ultimate in war crimes. The idea that you have systemic, serial and systemic rape of children by clergy. And when I say systemic, that is not an exaggeration. It is part of the system where you have clergy raping children. And on the rare occasion that a family will step up and go to the bishop, they really don't go to the police, they don't go to the prosecutor, they go to the bishop and say, Your Eminence, Father so-and-so violated my little boy. And the bishop goes, I'll take care of it, my son, my daughter, I'll take care of it. He takes that pedophile priest and simply moves him to another diocese. He might give him like a 2-week vacation of rest and recuperation and move them to a new diocese where they can rape anew.
Sure.
Are you kidding? Go ahead.
What you're saying, I think that that's the truth of what's going on with this cabal and how they choose these people at a young age and raise them to be these things that go out and be the false leaders of nations. I think it is that they are abused at a young age, and in a way their abuse is it's used to train them and shape the person that they want, but it's probably also used to blackmail and shame them and hold something over their head so that they're beholden. I think this is absolutely what's going on, and it does make so much sense that it would come from the church. Something I want...
Brilliantly put. Let me just back you up real quick. Brilliantly and perfectly put. Exactly right. It is a method of coercion, corruption, manipulation, and if we can use the terms, unfortunately the term has been way overused as a term of derision, mind control. It actually is a method of mind manipulation. Look, it's a fact that trauma, particularly trauma at a young age, and sexual trauma, really gets into a person's psyche and controls them. And that is the story behind Barack Obama, by the way. Barack Obama almost certainly abused as a child, maybe even by his biological father, brought in, the entire family has connections to the CIA. It's a well-known and well-used method of manipulation. And then you have the tie-in of okay, so maybe you're not a victim. Are you an abuser? Which it seems like Donald Trump is the other side of that coin. Thoroughly controlled and blackmailed as an abuser. It's an absolute fact that at least one victim sued Donald Trump twice, saying that at a Jeffrey Epstein party, hey, why do these guys have islands?
Sure.
They have islands so they can commit all kinds of debauchery free from prying eyes, which is a big part of what this coronavirus is all about, to force us, the healthy, to go underground and to give them more freedom to have these outrages. 13-year-old girl sued, as an adult, she sued Donald Trump, saying that he raped her at an Epstein party. Beyond that, I've got a report that the Trump household, the Trump fortune, has paid off no fewer than 6 victims, 3 of them little boys, of having been violated by Donald Trump in the vicinity of like $30 million. And that comes from Wayne Madsen, which I consider a reputable source, although certainly not necessarily a straight shooter, maybe a bit of a gatekeeper. But I absolutely consider that report worth looking further into. This is the kind of extreme deviance. Hey, listen, I think this guy has had relations with his own daughter. Look at the role of Ivanka and the role that she's played. Hey, just type into Google, which has the birthday of the Jesuits on September 27th. Donald Trump, Ivanka Trump inappropriate. You're going to come up with all kinds of things that should be disturbing to you. And if you're listening to the show and you think Donald Trump is special, Donald Trump is different, Donald Trump is an outsider, he's one of us, can't tell you how wrong you are. Zach already told you the guy's Jesuit trained. It goes a lot deeper than that.
Indeed.
It's the convergence. Go ahead, Jack.
Just in terms of the church playing both sides of things, let's not forget that Hugh Hefner just died right before the big Vegas shooting, and he has the street down there named after him, Hugh Hefner. But he died on the Jesuit birthday as well. That was a recent ritual. It just reminds of Martin Luther saying that the Catholic Church was, promoting sin and then selling indulgences on the other side. So, I mean, you think about that with Playboy, a jerk-off magazine, and then Hugh Hefner dying on their birthday. That's one of those examples. But something you might not be aware of, I just wanted to throw this at you and just see if it builds anything in your mind. Abraham Lincoln. I know you know about John Surratt, the Jesuit. John Surratt's full name equals 266, by the way, like the Jesuit IHS motto's 266, like Pope Francis is the 266th Pope. But he shot Lincoln April 14th. And that date can be written 14/4, like 144. Bobby Kennedy, killed by Sirhan Sirhan, reportedly died at 1:44 in the morning. JFK died at the beginning of Sagittarius, which in Gematria sums to 144, just like Jesuit order. And Kennedy curse also equates to Jesuit order. Martin Luther King Jr. died on April 4th, 4/4. If you write out April 4th, if you write out Sagittarius, if you write out Jesuit order, it all sums to 144. MLK's assassin ended up dying in prison on a date with 144 numerology. And remember, Martin Luther King Jr. died on the 95th day of the year, like Martin Luther wrote the 95 Thesis and was likely killed by the Jesuits established on the day, leaving 95 days left in the year. So they code this number 144 everywhere. And what is 144? In Jewish Gematria, time equals 144. 144 has a square root of 12. There's 12 hours in the morning, in the evening, 12 months in the year. There's 1,440 minutes each day, 1440. If you're not familiar with Maximilian Hell or Hell Meekska, he was a Jesuit astronomer credited with tracing Venus, who's Lucifer, the light bringer. He died on April 14th. And Venus has a lot to do with time as well. So, and again, Venus also has the Gematria 54, like Jesuit order, like sun equals 54, like how there's symbols the sun with the IHS in it, and we're on the solar calendar, the Gregorian calendar. His name Hell Meeks is also 54. So anyway, I just wondered in those events, those major assassinations relevant to this nation's history, if you have any, we only have a couple minutes till the end of the show, but just any major Jesuit, examples from those rituals.
Yeah, excellent. Oh my goodness, how does I miss that Hugh Hefner died on September 27th? Zach, well done, outstanding work, man. Of course, you also have the 12 tribes of Israel and the 144,000 sealed witnesses in Revelation 7.
Right.
Look, there was a, and by the way, you and Eric did a phenomenal job on this during one of your interviews as well. I'll see if I can add to it. The influence of Rome, and look, there have been correspondence uncovered with between the Vatican and Jefferson Davis. Hey, go ahead, drive forward. We're going to continue to give you support. The riots in New York City, you've got Dagger John Hughes.
Just so you know, 1 minute left, Johnny. 1 minute. That's all we got left, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, just dig deeper into the Civil War, Abraham Lincoln, the Surratt family, huge. The fact that America broke off diplomatic relations with Rome because of Rome's involvement with the Civil War and the assassination of Abraham Lincoln, all roads lead to Rome. Zach, thank you so much, brother. I'm at your service. Anytime you want to bring me back, really excited to have you. I'm learning a lot from you, brother.
Well, thank you very much for coming on. I'll definitely have you on. I'd like to have you and Eric on together, and we'll be doing a lot more of this. So, great interview. Thanks, Johnny. We're out of show, everybody. Check out Johnny Cirucci. I will post his link in the chat in just a moment. Until next time, Truth Seeker. Okay. That's the end of the radio show. Unfortunately, I have to disconnect from the show, which just disconnects me from Johnny. But again, lots of great information. And definitely have him back. I have zero doubt, again, who's the tip of the spear. It just everything lines up. I mean, my greatest frustration right now, and again, we have considered it for a number of years, but it's like, why didn't I see how this all comes together so perfectly years ago? I feel like I should have. I should have been this definitive about it 3 years ago is how I feel. For the last 3 years, I have been definitive that the Jesuits control the world of rigged sports. I guess I should have known from there. If they're controlling sports, they're controlling just like everything else, just like it tells you in George Orwell's 1984. But I will take some calls here tonight. Let me just finish up with some of these news stories. At the beginning of the show, I was talking about Cam Newton. I know we covered that. Harriet Tubman, the murder by numbers, what they're doing with the George Floyd trial on September 11th and March 8th. Are you kidding me? We talked about that. We talked about this Missy Williams right, just more of the same old numbers that they're coding all over as they try to provoke this civil war. You know, they're trying to go after race, everything, religion. It's just divide and conquer. Wherever they can get us, this Black Lives Matter thing's hot. The same old numbers keep popping up. Oh, by the way, Williamston, North Carolina also sums to 353, the 71st prime. And this was the news on 7/1. By the way, the CDC turned 74 years old today. I was really looking for a big story from the CDC today. I was surprised that it didn't happen. There was that ritual in Atlanta 33 days before this. That might have been it. Maybe there'll be something 33 days after, but I was waiting for that CDC headline today. I didn't see it. But yeah, we covered that. Let's see. Yeah, we covered this too. The shooting in Louisville at the Breonna Taylor. Another ritual that has the Jesuits' fingerprints all over it. The same old encoding of the same old numbers. We talked about the death of Elijah McClain, which is now being compared to George Floyd. You know, funny how it's from Colorado. The night George Floyd died, I talked about the 4 states with 38 Gematria, how they use them in relation to each other. We've seen Florida and Colorado used since. Maybe Louisiana, but I missed it if so. Okay, so we covered that. Let me see. We covered Rambo's really brilliant post. Okay, if you guys missed the beginning of the show, be sure to check it out once it fully uploads. Just yesterday, Supreme Court, and this is what's just amazing about right now. It's like, you know, coronavirus is going on and is the dominant headline, but it's distracting us from everything else happening in the world. Yesterday, the Supreme Court pretty much said there is no separation of church and state. Open the door for government funding of religious schools. And I do think that this has been going on in the past, so it's not the first time really. But again, it just makes so much sense that they did it on the day they did. June 30th, 20, a date with 56 numerology. Society of Jesus, 56. Washington, D.C., 56. Anthony Fauci, 56. Coronavirus, 56. The Jesuits in D.C. The last Supreme Court justice to join the bench, Brett Kavanaugh. He did his big thing against Christine Blasey Ford on the Jesuit birthday, September 27th, talking about how much he wanted to drink beer before the coronavirus, the beer virus that has the Jesuit fingerprints all over it. But under the guise of and distraction of coronavirus, now the Catholic Jewish Supreme Court opening up the door for religious investment. At the same time, Bill Gates is trying to reshape the whole country and is saying we need to reshape education, and he's building Jesuit high schools. Can't you see how it all comes together? Man who has more wealth than the rest of Washington State combined. Imagine the wealth of Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos. How much more wealth do they have than like the states of Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Montana, the Dakotas, you know, just everything in there. I bet you those two men have more wealth than everyone that lives in all those states. How's that even possible? Think about it. And again, I'd contend that both men are puppets representing fascist enterprises that are the church and the state and our tax revenue. Anyway, it was a 5-4 decision. Reminds that Kavanaugh was sworn in on October 6, 2018, the date with 54 numerology, like Jesuit orders 54, like John Carroll's 54, the Jesuit who founded Georgetown at age 54, Brett Kavanaugh went to Georgetown Prep. And again, they confirmed him on October 6th, not just because it had the 54 date numerology, but because it was the anniversary of Anita Hill saying she was sexually assaulted by Clarence Thomas. October 6th leaves 86 days left in the year. Anita Hill equals 86, sexual assault 86, Kavanaugh 86, Thomas 86, twisted sick rituals. And again, what's in there with that is like, you know, sexual assault, this component that's associated with the church, right? So you get this Catholic Jesuit Kavanaugh accused of sexual assault, what the church is known for, and he's saying, no, I didn't assault this woman sexually. I just like to drink a lot of beer back then, and I don't really remember much. I drank a lot of beer, and I just remember that I didn't sexually assault her. Because as a lawyer about to be on the Supreme Court, obviously I'm going to talk about how much I like to drink beer today, because doesn't that just make so much sense? And for people who didn't watch the Kavanaugh process, all he talked about was how much he liked to drink beer. And it's like, who the hell is going to say this? That they like to drink beer while they're trying to deny that they sexually assaulted a woman? I mean, anyway, again, it's just all ritual. And when you learn the numbers and the dates and who's pulling the strings, it's all a slap in the face. And that's why it's so easy now with everything going on to just look back at everything we've been talking about over the years and go, duh, it's been the Jesuits all along. Speaking of the Jesuits, QAnon backer Lauren Boebert in Colorado has become the political frontrunner there. And remember, QAnon, QAnonymous. Anonymous gets their symbolism from Guy Fawkes. The Jesuit QAnon equals 201 in Jewish Gematria. The big Jesuit number. Doesn't it all make too much sense? This was front page news on 7-1. Lauren with the alphabetic order, 71 like Catholic. There's a lot more in her name. 78 like Jesuit, 57 like Georgetown and Scottish Rite, 138 like Donald Trump the Jesuit, plus more. But again, QAnon, I've been telling you guys it's a Sly-op since it got here. Promoted by the mainstream media. Now look at it. QAnon putting out politicians just like the Tea Party, another Sly-op. Embarrassing. Seattle says they're taking back over the CHOP. It's gone from the Chaz to the CHOP. And again, it's all by the numbers. They made this announcement on 7/1, the CDC's birthday. And remember, I've been talking about Seattle and Atlanta, the two cities that equal 247. And this year will be the 247th anniversary of the banning of the Jesuits by Pope Clement XIV. And Atlanta's on the 84th meridian, Jesuit 84. Seattle's on the 47th parallel, Vatican 47. I wanted to ask Johnny about if he knew more about this Maximilian Hell guy. Again, he's this important Jesuit astronomer, named by the numbers, dead by the numbers. But again, it just shows that this stuff's been going on for centuries. Big Powerball winner died June 27th. I've always told you the big lotteries are all part of an illusion, and they hire actors to play the parts. I look at this as the story of the death of an actor, Jack Whitaker. And he died on the day leaving 187 days left in the year, and he died on his 263rd day of his age, the 56th prime. Society of Jesus, 56-187. First big red flag. He won the Powerball on Christmas. So Christmas, the Catholic Church, Jesus, Society of Jesus. He won it 18 years ago. And IHS equals 18, as does Sun, S-U-N. Catholic Church making the day of worship Sunday, making all the Christian rituals pagan, like Christmas. All about the sun, the solar calendar. And so 18 years after his Christmas winnings, he's dead. He died at age 73 on a 73 date numerology. As we know, sacrifice is 73, ritual sacrifice is 73. There's 73 books in the Catholic Bible. I can't remember the name of the Catholic Bible off the top of my head right now, but it equals 73. 73 is the 21st prime number. Bible equals 21. Jesuit 21. Math 21. The fourth book of the Bible, Numbers. And Jack Whitaker also equals 211, the 47th prime, kind of like the day the Vatican was established, February 11th, 211, Vatican 47. You can also write that date 112, like 112, Catholicism 112, Jesuits in 112 countries. And in addition to him dying on his 263rd day of his age, the 56th prime, Whitaker's 56. It's been the number of the year, from Soleimani to Kobe Bryant to coronavirus to Black Lives Matter. It has been the number of the year, 56, no doubt about it. Number that screams Society of Jesus. And the day he died was also the 179th day of the year, which is the 41st prime. Powerball's 41. I talked about it. Rambo talked about it. Sean King, a name that equals 41, like King's 41, born on September 17th, 17/9. Similar ritual right here with the Powerball winner, who I highly doubt died naturally by the numbers. So hopefully he enjoyed the last 18 years. Did talk about this over the weekend. The story brought up, front page news, on the Sunday about the murder of a little girl 38 years ago, when we know death, murder, killing, RIP, all equal 38. So does her surname Prosser. And her full name, Kellyanne Prosser, 20184, like the Jesuit order. At a time when these numbers are just popping up left and right. Catholic Church, little kids, rumors of bones on tops of piles of bones in Vatican dungeons, all the children that disappear annually. The next time I have Johnny Cirucci back, something I didn't ask him about tonight is, you know, you heard his beliefs on the power structure and how he does think it's Rome and the Catholics at the top, which I would agree with. But I wonder how much you-know-who infiltration there is within the church, something I've always speculated on, especially because of the history of the Jesuits. It does seem so strange that the Catholic Church, with its media, picks on itself so much by exposing all of its settlements and abuse of children, while the you-know-whos, who also are known for abuse, there's not much talk about that in the mainstream media. So might have to have that conversation on a different platform. I don't think that YouTube video would last very long. Oh man, I've had 19 channels deleted to date. And most of them haven't been for hardly talking about nothing. So, also, you guys, I've been talking about all the stuff with 201 and the Jesuits. Last week, I told you about Pope Francis living in Suite 201. I should have read down one more paragraph, because it says what the name of the building is that Suite 201, the Domus Sanctae Marthae, which equals 201. So he lives in Suite 201 at the building with a 201 name. Born Jorge Mario Bergoglio, 201, and he's the first Jesuit pope, and the Jesuits were founded by Ignatius of Loyola, 201, and then they were saved with Catherine the Great with the 201 Jesuits she preserved. And then you run the alphabetic order in reverse, and Catholic popes, 201, and the Jesuit orders, 201, and, you know, plus everything else. The whole George Perry Floyd ritual, 201, 201 weeks from the killing of Adema Traore in Paris, France, the Jesuit home. Adema Traore killed on the 201st day of the year. You know, all the way down to things like the Office TV show being set in Scranton, Jesuit town, and running 201 episodes. So, again, big thank you to Johnny Cirucci. And if you guys want to find his channel, just come to YouTube and search Johnny Cirucci. Cirucci with a C. Cirucci. And I think he's from Philadelphia. I should have talked to him more about Philadelphia too. I find it interesting how him and Eric do such good work and they have such small subscriber amounts. And there's so many trash channels that have so many viewers. So if you guys want to check out Johnny Cirucci and Eric 777, our recent guests, I need to ask Eric why he went with the 777. But both men could definitely use more attention. So, again, going forward, what I intend to do with this work as soon as I finish the book, I think I don't want to jinx myself, you guys, because I seriously thought I was going to be done like 2 weeks ago, but just writing takes time. Making it right takes time. I'm pretty sure I will be done by next week's show. If I'm not done by next Wednesday's show, I will be done a day or two after that. But I'm very close. And as soon as I finish this book, which will be such a great thing, because it'll feel like a sigh of relief, but I just know that the finished product, for the people who've read the first 11 chapters on Patreon, there's going to be a few more tweaks because I realize some things I can do. But the finished product, it's going to be really great, and it's going to be really persuasive. And once I am done with that, we're going to do that children's version of the book very fast after that as a community. I just need to get people to help me out with the artwork. I pretty much already know what's going to go on those 10 pages. But once these book projects are done, what I am going to really focus on is mastering this astrology component. Figuring out, like what Rambo's doing. Because once we have that down, I'm telling you, man, we already see what they're doing before it happens. I mean, we've been dead on about everything that's going on right now, this moment in history. We called all this a while back. It was 2015 where I said we don't want to get to 2020 if the world's not seeing what's going on and how the cabal's running things. We knew this was going to be a big year for a long time. We're here. The good news is it still is an opportunity to wake up people. The bad news is how much time do we have left to do something about it, and we can see that time is limited. But as soon as I'm done with these books, of course we're going to get out and pound pavement, but I'm really going to start focusing on making sure that I'm learning more and more each day, more rapidly, about the astrology piece and the days of the week. Because I know once we get that, it's really going to come into alignment, and that is the goal. So let me grab the other phone here real quick. I got to switch phone numbers real fast because the 213 number is no longer the number to connect. The new number is the 509 number, and that should be up on the screen. What's up, caller?
Hey, what's up, Zach?
Hey, man.
Did you hear about the big? I got 2 points I want to make quick. Did you hear about the big drug bust in Italy?
Say it again. Did I hear about which one?
The big drug bust in Italy.
Big drug bust in Italy. No, I did not hear about that, but that's interesting.
They said this is the biggest drug bust in the world.
That just happened. Biggest drug bust in the world in Italy.
It said, guess how much is in U.S. money? 1.12 billion.
Well,
so 112 Jesuits across the world. Did you say that?
Well, okay. So I just pulled up the headline. So it looks like 19 hours ago this news broke. So 1.12, Catholicism 112, the Vatican established 11/2, 112 countries the Jesuits operate in. Big number with the Jesuits. I also just opening it up. It says Italy reports biggest seizure of amphetamines in the world, 1.12 billion worth. The drug came in the form of 84 million Captagon tablets. 84, I mean, are you kidding me? Jesuit 84, the Catholic Church 84, the Jesuit Order 84. I mean, this is what I'm talking about. And again, it just makes sense because
you talked about this tonight with the guy you had on tonight.
Yeah, it just makes too much sense. Just the same old numbers again and again and again. So no, I didn't see that headline, but I'm seeing it now.
And they said it was produced by ISIS in Syria.
Yeah.
ISIS in Syria. I mean, y'all just talking about all this horrors and sirens and all, except and all this stuff. You see how they did that ritual on 7/1?
Right, you're right. 7/1, Catholic 71, 71 the 20th prime. It's never been more front and center in 2020 that it's the Catholic Church.
Yeah, so I just wanted to let you know that story. And the last point I want to make is about Kanye West. He got a new song called "Wash Us in the Blood." I know he had other songs in the past about with blood in it, but this song just caught my eye. "Wash Us in the Blood." That's his new song.
And y'all just talking about all the Jesus rituals, how they use these rappers with Jesus rituals and everything. So I just think it's funny that he got a song called Wash Us in the Blood.
Wash us in the blood. I see it. Okay, I'll have to look into that. Curious.
Yeah, that's just, I just want to tell you about that big drug bust in Italy.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
All right.
All right. Have a good night.
All right, you too.
Yeah, I mean, 84. It's been, over the years, it's just been a number that's always right there. 84, 84, 84. Caller? Hello? That is so weird. Hold on. Are you serious? What is going on right now? The phone's doing something I've never seen before. Sorry, people calling right now. The phone is glitching hard. All right, there, it came back. Caller? Hello? Marco? Marco? I pick up. I don't know why you can't hear me. Marco? All right, let's try another. Hello?
Never seen before.
You gotta mute your phone. You're on.
Hello?
Yeah.
Zachary?
Yeah, you gotta mute your phone. You're on.
Yes. Hello?
Hello?
Yes. Hello?
Switching over. All right, caller?
Hey, Zach?
Yeah, what's up?
Zach?
Uh-huh.
Hey, this is my first time calling in, man. I can't believe I got on the line, dude. That's what's up. I'm a little bit tipsy right now.
That's okay.
But, dude, I just wanted to let you know, dude, my name's Bryce, dude. I come kind of over from Adam and Brian's channels. I know you know who I'm talking about, brother. You know what's up and shit. I just, I'm kind of new to all this stuff, man, and this stuff's kind of just been blowing my mind, bro, like the year of 201 type stuff. You know what I'm saying, man?
Sure. It blows my mind, too. Here's a real mind blower. Everyone can look this up. Right now on the Great Pyramid in Egypt, the Great Pyramid, there are 201 layers of stones remaining intact. Like, I can't even believe that right now, but that's the official stat at their website. 201 layers of bricks still officially intact.
Hey, what's the game? Hold on, I'm on vacation right now, Zach. What's the game that you guys are playing right now? What's it called? Alright, I've got a bunch of my homies and my family at the crib playing gin rummy, and all I can keep thinking in my head is just like, dude, I don't even want to know what kind of wizardry and witchcraft is behind this shit, you know what I'm saying?
Sure, they should want to know that.
I mean, man, I'm sitting here with my family. It's so frustrating. Like, since I've been here, I'm at like a resort type shit. And since I've been here, it's probably been like 3 or 4 days, and they put signs up now saying, all right, masks are mandatory, even though it's fucking 98 degrees. Sorry for the cussing. Even though it's freaking 98 degrees, it feels like 106. People are breathing in their own carbon monoxide. I mean, people are chilling by themselves 30 feet around everyone. No one's around them. Like, I just mean, like, please stop being a sheep, bro. Like, we have very little time left. Like you said, bro, the Jesuits, I've been looking into them, like, they are extreme, like, with the Zionists and the Jesuits, they're at the extreme, very top, man. Like, there is no question about it anymore, bro. Your work, among many others, has proven it, man, bro. Like, there's, you know what I mean? Like, there's nothing left to talk about besides solutions type shit, you know?
Right. Yeah, you're right. Well, there's two things that need to happen. One, the problems need to be done away with, and then two, we need solutions to solve the problems that have been created.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, enjoy that time with your friends and family. It's good to be around friends and family, but I hear you on the frustration. Just things are so ridiculous. Making people wear these masks in this heat, it makes no sense.
I mean, just at the last time, I was sitting around telling my uncle today about Operation Lockstep, and I was just telling him, the Rockefeller Foundation, Operation Lockstep, and everything, top-down authoritative government, all of it, and he was, just basically, he was telling me, like, holy shit, all the shit that you've been saying for, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, all this shit is coming true before my very eyes, you know what I mean, man? Like, we have very little time, you know what I mean, man? But I appreciate the work for sure, dude. You know what I mean? I really do.
Well, thank you for listening, and appreciate the call-in and the message. You have a good night.
You too, man.
All right, take care.
You too.
Caller? Hello? Hello? Caller? Hello? Hello? You're on. You gotta mute the video. Caller?
Hey, what's up, Zach? It's Marco, man.
Hey, what's up, Marco?
Thanks so much, bro. Awesome show, man.
Thank you.
Show. Definitely, I had Johnny back. I told Alex, the homie G, that when I called in, I would give a heads up. She was trying to get in contact with you about something with the Discord, so I just told her I'd give a heads up on that. She really wants to get with you. Apparently, it's a lot of people trying to sign up with the Discord, and I think she just wants some direction from you and everything. So, just a heads up.
Indeed. And I just, if you're out there, I got to apologize, Alex. Alex, we promoted the Discord a while back. I need to keep promoting it. I haven't done a good job about being in there because I'm just pretty much using all my free time to write the book. But Alex, the homie G's been a great contributor in the community. They have a Discord, so if they can get that link to me for where people want to join again, I'll be happy to put it up and keep it up on the top of the site so people can find it.
Definitely, because the chat itself is just absolutely instrumental, as you know, man. I learned so much myself just from the chat, and people inspire me so much, just from the chat because of things that they say, and even during the show, I'm researching. So yeah, it's an awesome thing with the chat. So that's what basically the Discord is. So
indeed.
Definitely. I also said I would do a favor for Jay Easy, but I think you already kind of covered it, or you got some of what he was saying. But Kevin Gates and Kobe Bryant had the same exact gematria in all 4 ciphers.
Yeah, that's wild. It just makes you wonder what could happen there.
Yeah, he noticed, and these are his finds. What I'm saying right here, he noticed that it was all 4 of the correlations basically, and he also noticed that in the yellow cipher, the reverse extended. That when you punch in Kevin Gates, it equals 2020, and that's just like super creepy. Being that it's 2020, it seems like he might, God forbid, lose his life this year, because he also noticed that from Kevin Gates' birthday, which is 2/5. to Kobe Bryant's birthday, which is 8/23, that's 201 days.
Yeah, that is very strange.
That's really wild, man. I noticed it, so I added on to what he put down, and I noticed that it's funny that KG, Kevin Gates' initials, that's 11 and 7. So we know about that number, especially with the 7-11 and all of that stuff. Now,
that's a Kobe number too, actually, 117. I haven't covered that one with Kobe since his jersey retirement, but that's interesting, yeah.
Well, I was going to say, check Kobe's initials, KB, which is 11 and 2, which is back to the 112 again with the Jesuit thing. So, you've been talking about that all night. You also have Kobe. I noticed that doing a little research, Kobe had exactly 121 games that he scored 40 or more points, which I thought was also very interesting. See what I got here. They brought out Corona, the beer company. They brought out a new seltzer water, and it's called Corona Hard Seltzer. Corona Hard Seltzer equals 85 and 95, almost like the reverse 58 and 59. If you just write out Corona Hard and don't put seltzer on the end, that equals 56. The whole entire name of it is Corona Hard Seltzer Spiked Sparkling Water. That equals in the most pure cipher 179, and that's the 41st prime. which the age was that Kobe, you know, when he died.
Right.
You said earlier tonight that you've been looking for either a 102 or 201, basically dealing with Kobe. I think I found it. You tell me if you like it or not. NBA legend Kobe Bryant equals 102. NBA legend Kobe Bean Bryant equals 199, which is the 46th prime. Just thought both of those were absolutely mind-blowing to me. You also said earlier, and this is what I'm talking about with, you know, doing research during the show itself. But you talked about Mars earlier. Mars, as we know, is the god of war. 9/11 had that happened on a Tuesday, which was, of course, War Day. And Mars is the Roman god. But if you look at the Greek god, which is Ares, I think I'm saying the name right, Ares, the equivalent just in Greek, that equals 65, just like pandemic. So, you know, that was super interesting. Pretty much wrap it up here. I did want to ask you, did you hear about the Cryptocurrency Act of 2020?
No, I did not.
Zach, that's super heavy, man. I'm trying to find some research on it. I haven't found too much. I just found out about it today. But the Cryptocurrency Act of 2020 was basically done on March 10th, which was a day before they claimed the pandemic. And the article that I read, it kept saying, is the Cryptocurrency Act of 2020 dead on arrival? Dead on arrival equals 227 and 83. Dead on arrival, 83 like murder, killing, and all those other numbers. And DOA is the fourth letter, the 15th letter, and the first letter. And if you add them up all together, that equals 20. So, just thought that was super deep. And I'll leave you with this one. I look at 20. I kept looking at 201. I'm trying to figure out what it actually is and what it means. 2, if a lot of people don't know, 2 is a number for the devil. And the reason why is because the devil wants to be like God. So he's constantly searching for that duality. So I look at 2 like it's the devil, and I look at 1 because, there is only one, there's only the Most High. So I look at 1 like that's God. So I said, well, what if it's devil over God? Like, that's what they're trying to write out. Well, I wrote out Satan on top of God, and man, that equals 65 like pandemic and 70 like coronavirus.
Interesting. Yeah, very interesting.
So, but yeah, I'll leave it at that, man. And just awesome show, man. I appreciate you letting me speak, and yeah, man, you want to keep going with this research and keep trying to wake these people up, man.
Sure. Before you go, Marco, just so you know, since you brought up Kobe and the 117 thing, when Kobe's jersey was retired on December 18th, 2017, that was 117 days after his birthday. The Lakers came in 10-17, 1017. Kobe Bean Bryant equals 117 if you use the master numerology. And when you write out 13 as a word, it equals 117, like LA's 13, like KB's 13. That retirement was on December 18th, the day leaving 13 days left in the year. And, of course, the Warriors, originally from Philly, like Kobe, they picked up their 24th win in that game. It was a gimme. I mean, the Warriors were a lot better than the Lakers then, but it was just so easy to see that they'd get their 24th win as they retire the number 24 and number 8 for Kobe, Oh, and then they also gave the Lakers their 8th home loss of the season. So the Warriors get the 24th win, and the Lakers get the 8th home loss in the 24-8 ceremony. Yeah.
See, absolutely maddening. Like you say, is it a computer? Are they talking to some devil spirit, some demon or some shit? Like, who are they talking to figure all this shit out?
Well, it's just like this too. It's like, how do you pull this off? The day that Kobe played his last game, there were all these rituals. There were so many, and this is just one of them. But one of them was that Kobe retired exactly. He played his last game, I should say, exactly 678 weeks after Michael Jordan played his last game, 678. And both Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan equal 678 in Sumerian Gematria. And if you recall that game, the ESPN had that game going, and on ESPN2, they had the Warriors and the Bulls playing each other because the Warriors were playing to eclipse Michael Jordan's win record. The Warriors got their 73rd win, beating the Bulls' 72-win mark, and Steph Curry's born on the 73rd day of the year. But in that, Steph Curry and Klay Thompson set a new record as teammates, 678 combined three-pointers in the season. It was never done before. And again, Michael Jordan, 678. They beat his win record by doing it. Kobe Bryant, 678. He played his last game exactly 678 weeks after Jordan, and Jordan played his last game against Philly, where Kobe's from. Again, man, it's just the rituals are too perfect.
If you don't believe in magnetic rims, I don't know what to tell anybody, man. I swear. It's not even possible.
Exactly, man. It's just too perfect. The outcomes are too perfect. So it's either that or it's magic sorcery that's beyond magnetism. So it's one of the two.
Right. Right. But yeah, I ain't gonna hold you, Zach, man. Let somebody else get on the line, man. Appreciate
All
you.
right. Have a good night, Marco. Take care. Thanks, man.
You too, man. All right.
Caller? Caller, you got to mute your video. You're on.
Hey, what's up, man?
Hey, what's up?
Zach, or is this someone else?
Hey, no, it's me. It's Zach. What's up?
What's up, man? This is Sean, dude. I've talked to you a couple of times, man. I'm Sean from Montana.
Okay.
I appreciate your show, dude. I appreciate the information that's been presented. I appreciate the dude that called in today and presented a lot of information, particularly on the Catholicism, Roman Catholicism, and kind of dabbling into the fact that if you look into the history, it's very easy to prove out that was a political movement that basically grabbed a hold of this land militarily and inculcated, the pagan belief system from here into so-called Christianity, and inculcated this next land that was conquered and called that Christianity too, with their beliefs and stuff, and exposing a lot of this stuff. This is very important information, because the Bible's obviously related with all this Gematria. Yeah? Do you agree?
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, these two things are right hand, left hand. I guess it's up for us to choose which is the right hand, which is the left hand, right?
Right.
Because the magician's right, and it's the one we're supposed to look at, right?
Right.
But I just wanted to point out just a couple quick things. I know a lot of people are trying to call in, so I'll do my best to be brief here. If you're preparing, Zach, I'm telling you right now, bro, steel your heart, man, because these motherfuckers are ruthless. Read thoroughly the Jesuit oath, my friend. If you truly are a truth seeker, I don't know you and you don't know me, but I will tell you what my mind is, regardless. I will state my mind to you. And I'm telling you, prepare yourself, steel your heart, most of all your heart, and your soul. Because these motherfuckers talk about dashing babies' hearts against the wall. You probably read it, right?
I've seen that version of the Jesuit oath, and I've also seen people say that some of the stuff has been exaggerated, and I don't know exactly what's true or what's not, but I mean there's no doubt about it that throughout history the Jesuits are killers, and they do seem to be ruthless. There's a reason they're at the top. So.
Right, and that's a good point, man. I appreciate you bringing that up, man, because this is all hearsay that I'm speaking right now. I've read these things from the documents that supposedly come from them themselves. But when it really comes down to it, this is hearsay. And we got to focus on what we know. But, I guess I just bring it back real quick, like, to Bill Cooper. I'm sure you know who Bill Cooper is, and you probably know about a lot of things that he spoke of. And that he was shot downwards through the head with a pistol shot through his skull by so-called sheriffs. Are you still with me?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Okay, sorry, I heard a click. I've been hung up before on this stuff. But, truth telling is a dangerous thing, dude. And I'm not saying that your person is in danger. We're all going to die. But these people, the people that are behind seeing on the TV, all these people, they've been driven mad, right? I mean, if you push a person into a corner deep enough, the beast comes out in them. You push a guy into unemployment. You put a mask over his face, and he's breathing his own carbon dioxide, like a dude mentioned earlier. We all know these facts. We all know these things. We just need to look back, right, at all the entire picture. They unemployed us. They've destroyed our economy. They've told us to be afraid of an invisible, unexplainable enemy.
Right.
They declared war.
Right. They're using fear without evidence to transition the world and put people in a lot of really bad spot. And they're able to do it because they know they have such an obedient and good order-following society, which is a big problem.
Yeah, truly, dude. And if you look at the video and the transcripts of the old, it just reminds me, I don't know about you, but you mentioned the words you just mentioned, and immediately what pops into my mind is the Nuremberg trials, and how at basically the big story at the end of all the small stories of the Nuremberg trials was that, correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, this is what I look at as the big story at the end of the whole Nuremberg story, was that just because you're given an order doesn't mean that you're right in carrying out the order, right?
That is essentially what the final verdict was. Yeah, that is true.
Yeah. And so if we take this on a personal level, like Bill Cooper, I mentioned Bill Cooper, what he kept mentioning, like, sure, the Jesuits, as I call them, and I'm sorry about, maybe this is illegal on TMI or whatever the hell we're on this radio show. I apologize if that's the case, man. Truly. The Jesuit order, okay? The Rosencross, the Order of the Garter, all these many orders. There's just a big, huge cacophony of noise of all these CIA, FBI, all these groups, dude, and they all sound so very far. But you know what? They're all made of men. And I'm a man, you are a man, and every single person that's sitting in their seat, or they're in their car, or they're standing up, or they're working out, or whatever the fuck is going on, they're a man. They're a woe man, which brings life, or they're a man which gives life. But every single one of us, we're pretty much the same, man. And the thing is, we've been inundated with this propaganda. Do you agree? Like,
Indeed, from the cradle to the grave. Well, I shouldn't say to the grave because we're not there yet, but it's going to be that way unless we do something about it. Friend, I'd let you go on. There's a lot of people calling on, and I can't stay on too much longer, so I'm going to let somebody else get on the line, but I do appreciate it.
Give me one moment. All I want to say is that let's just look in the mirror. We can see a lot of actors out there that are doing a lot of things, but let's not forget the fact that I myself am involved. So just be the change that you want to see. We can say it's the Jesuits, we can say it's this, we can say it's that, we can say it's this, but most importantly, what do I do? What am I doing? That's all I want to say. That's what Bill Cooper got executed for, in my personal opinion. If you have anything to say, please interject, and if not, I'll go. I know, like you said, people want to call. I'm sorry, I'm long-winded.
That's okay.
But,
yeah, no, I appreciate it, man. Thank you for the call. If you want to check out my thoughts on Bill Cooper's death, it's at the end of my first book. But I appreciate it, man. You have a good night.
Right, okay. Look in the mirror, guys.
All right, see you. Caller?
Hey, what's up, bro?
Hey.
Hey, man, I wanted to talk about the 222, man. I'm actually from Florida. My brother's name equals 222-56-210, just like Wuhan coronavirus.
Uh-huh.
His full three names together with his suffix, the fourth. And he is now, he played high school football. He was a star here in Florida. On to the NFL. I also have a brother, a cousin that played in major leagues. My grandfather coached at Navy with Vince Lombardi. All right. You got to understand that my father was born in New York. His name equals 222. You know the New York story, the 222. You know?
Right.
You there? All right. So my mother's side is the Duckworth. My father's side is Custer, Custer, like the general. We're descendants. Now my name equals 155, blah, 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 like coronavirus. But I don't know anything. I just got turned on to this stuff like 4 months ago. I started teaching myself Gematria, and then I found your channel. But it goes much deeper, brother. My grandfather coached with Vince Lombardi. He was a navigational pilot in World War II. He got a citation from Admiral Nimitz. When he came back, he went to Navy to coach football. He got credit for coming up with Buddy Ryan with the 46 defense. I mean, Buddy Ryan's father, the 46 defense, which we both know the number 46 means.
Let's just remind people, the Chicago Bears with the revolutionary 4-6 defense won the Super Bowl 46-10, and in Gematria, Chicago equals 46. Just using the alphabetical order.
My brother was number 11 in high school.
Okay.
All right, you know about 6 and 9, and you know about the keystone and how they're interlocking, 6 and 9, right?
Right.
And you also know that IHS is the emblems for the Jesuits.
Right.
My brother and I both went to Interlochen High School in Florida. This is where I live. IHS, Interlochen High School.
Right.
You can look it up. This is my high school I went to. All right, and he was number 11. His quarterback was number 1. His quarterback was Mike Bowman. He went on and played a season with the Green Bay Packers. Okay, which is where my grandfather actually was friends with the coach, Vince Lombardi. Which is wild because my grandfather had my father while he was in New York, and that's when he named my father. Of course, he was the 4th generation. And on my mother's side, I have a Grand Master Mason, 33rd degree Mason in my family. But again, I'm not part of any of this. But my name equals all of it, so I am part of it. My name also equals 70, 73, and 72, which I believe everybody's name somehow equals that. I believe our parents signed us over to that with Social Security. And I believe it started, honestly, as a good thing. Like, oh, well, let's sacrifice them. They won't know any better, and they'll go to heaven, or they'll go to the source, or whatever these people believe we go to next, you know?
Right.
And as with anything, you know, things start with a good idea, and then men get a hold of it and twist it.
Right. Yeah.
You know? So my name does equal 73, and I want to tell you this: my father's name, which equals 222, his funeral was this year on a day leaving 222 days in the year.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah.
Right, and I didn't learn any of this stuff. And I promise you, the creator of the universe slapped me at 3:30 in the morning, at 33 in the morning, and I woke up, and he just started the source, whatever you want to call it. I've been a Christian my whole life, so I know the Bible very well. I was actually a preacher in a Baptist church, and I'll tell you, I started to see the lies, and I started to see the things that didn't make sense. Then I learned Gematria, and I learned I learned what Henry the Great, or the Great I Am, Henry the Eighth I Am, the Great I Am, Henry the Great I Am.
Right.
I learned what they did with our word, with that Bible. You know what I mean? I learned that they have us worship in the Anunnaki when it says in Revelations we're going to be singing Anu's song in Anu's heaven and Anu earth.
Sure, yeah.
You know, it's so simple. And we're in the new world, Anu world, and Anu world order. It's all Anunnaki worship. It all boils down to me. That's where I've gone with it.
It's entirely possible. That's a theory I'm very much open to. So, yeah.
You know, the book of Revelations boils down to, you know, there's a cube coming out of the sky, a Kaaba, a gold Kaaba, and it's going to pick up the Christians and take them to the next, to Anu's heaven, to a new heaven.
Right.
It really just makes too much sense.
Yeah, it makes some sense. I appreciate it, man.
If you look at the first couple books of our Bible, it's a math you mark. Look, John, act Roman. Of course you mark your math. If you're Roman, you do. And what do you call an everyday guy? John Doe. A hooker calls his John.
Sure.
Look, John, act Roman, or Corinthian, or Ephesian, whatever it is. At least act Roman. Act something like us. You know, and the first 4 letters of the New Testament, you know, and I know that they're math.
Yeah.
And I don't believe that it was an accident that it says, let us create man in our image, because we actually created God in our image using numbers, letters, and words. That's why the New Testament starts with math.
Yeah, Matthew. Yep. Appreciate it, man. Very interesting.
Yeah, no problem, brother. Hey, I appreciate your work. You are a ladder, man, to the rest of us. That a lifetime of work that we didn't have to do. You know, so I just want to thank you for that, dude.
Well, you're very welcome. Thank
you. Are waking people up, brother. I want you to know that. All the way over here in Florida, man.
Thank you, man. Appreciate the call. All right. Have a good night. See you. I just want to make a point real quick, too. It's already been made before, but let's make it again. Again, Donald Trump at the World Economic Forum on his 222nd day of his age, when World Economic Forum's 222, so is Wuhan coronavirus, so is New York, New York, so is Event 201, so is Order Out of Chaos, the World Economic Forum, the main sponsor. I'm going to come back to it. We got a call real quick. Caller?
Hey, Zach. This is Joe. I wanted to share some information, a story that happened to me, and appreciate the show.
Joe, real quick, sit tight with me. I'm just going to finish making this point, and then you got the floor with your story, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so all this 222 stuff, remember, from September 11th, 2001 to March 11th, 2020, the date the pandemic was declared, was exactly 222 months later. And again, 9/11, the pandemic, they're both being used as excuses to take away our rights and liberties and build the surveillance state. Now look at Samuel L. Jackson, who went on Jimmy Kimmel's nightly talk show March 31st and read the book Stay the Fuck at Home. And notice how when he read that book, over his shoulder was the movie poster, The Long Kiss Goodnight. If you watch, actually just do a web search when you get a moment, The Long Kiss Goodnight, 9/11 predictive programming, your jaw will hit the floor. So he has this movie with the 9/11 predictive programming, which came out 5 years before 9/11, over his shoulders. He's reading this book that has, the 201 encoded in it, plus some other significant numbers. But notice Samuel L. Jackson's also 222. Like how he's reading this story right after all these states have come out and told people to stay at home. That was the end of March when he did this. And then he's here with the movie with the 9/11 predictive programming. Just the rituals are so undeniable when you know the code and what's being put in front of our faces. All right, sorry, caller, you got the floor.
Yeah, I want to say it is undeniable. And I was telling someone the other day about Adam Weishaupt equaling 51, Bavarian Illuminati on 5/1, and I was actually speaking at a BLM protest, just so people were just coming up to me, and I was educating about the Freemasons, and I have a book called Fire in the Minds of Men by James H. Billington, who's the former director of the Library of Congress. Jordan Maxwell talks about this book a lot, and in this book it talks about so it kind of gets into the beliefs of these Freemasons that were associated with the New World Order and the Illuminati, and how it's related to Prometheus and the Jesuits and all that stuff, and Freemasonry. And so I was talking about this and how it's related to the Bolshevik Revolution and communism and socialism. And this guy, I was talking to a dude, and a couple people were interested. This guy comes up, and he was saying how he was a Mason, and he showed me his Masonic pin and all this stuff, and he was saying it's just a charitable organization. And I discredited him pretty quickly. You know what I mean? I was just to the people, I was just look, it's just a charitable organization, but I mean, they created the modern world we live in through conspiracy. And then I saw on his arm, he had this demonic goat head, a severed goat head, a tattoo, and all his tattoos were black, except this goat head had these blood red eyes. I was like, look at this guy's tattoo on his arm, people. Look, it's got blood red eyes. What? I'm like, what's up with that, man? He's like, it's just a goat, man.
Shoot, the call dropped. Man, we hadn't had any calls drop yet tonight. Yeah, what he's telling me, though, reminds me of this person that came up to us in Seattle, and he had the satanic pentagram on, and I forget, he had something else that was Satan-related, but he was interesting. This guy came up to us and asked us all these questions. I was just like, who's this guy really with? Mr. Church of Satan here, but let's see. Caller?
Hey, I'm back.
Hey.
So you called me up. I thought you cut me off. Boring. Next.
No, it did the cell phone's been having trouble the last week, and it's been better tonight, but it disconnected there.
Well, so what I was trying to say is this guy, you know, despite everything that I was saying, all of the evidence, you know, like in presenting it in a way that was completely sound, the people, you know, I don't know. It's like, to me, maybe we need to just be like saying, you know, just being more psychological and just pointing out more directly, like, hey, you're just kind of following these people. You're not thinking logically, because this guy, you know, has this demonic goat head. He's saying all this illogical shit, and people are kind of like, you know, sort of on the fence of this. And I think we just need to be more direct and just say, like, look, you know, you're trying to be popular, you're trying to go along with this thing, but it's not really how the world works. And because this guy, it's like, he had this satanic tattoo, and, you know, at all, like, I wasn't like, he was being threatening to me, and he was like not a cool, he was trying to like discredit me to everybody, and was like trying to make me out to, you know, kind of being hostile towards me, like trying to make people think that I was a racist or some shit. And but he like,
did he drop again? I didn't hear it even do the beep beep beep, but he seems to be gone. You guys, I better wrap it up. We've been on for almost an extra hour. I know Sweet Lady's not going to be too happy about it, so we'll leave it there, you guys. And before long, be back to normal. Again, thank you to everyone who listened tonight. Thank you to everyone who supports the work, whether it's sharing it or pledging $1 on the Patreon. Again, very close to finishing the book. The goal is to have some physical copies in my hand by July 21st. Be down in Seattle, around the autonomous zone area that they're shutting down. Educate people about these Jesuit rituals on this significant date upcoming. And really start pounding pavement. And try to get these goals realized. The goals of getting greater funding for this movement. And bringing a team of people together so that every day we can meet in a physical space, look at what's going on, put our minds together, take the research to the next level like we were talking about earlier in the show. You know, you got your astrology expert, you got your Jesuit expert, you got your historian, you know, you got your people that are good with the Gematria. You got people that are good at making memes. We need like a team of people to put our minds together, and those are going to be the goals. And I'm hoping if I do a good enough job with this book, it'll bring a lot of new people into our community, and we'll be able to achieve the goals. I have seen some people leaving comments like, Zach's not making it happen. He's raising this money, but we still don't have the building a team. Okay, you can say I'm not making it happen, but I still am working every single day towards that cause. And again, the resources that are accumulating, they are being saved. At the end of the year, I'm hoping that what happens, I'm keeping the fingers crossed, I'm hoping that this year property values at the end of the year will tank a little bit so we can get a structure, and then we can hire our first employee or two and start building the team. Again, all the resources coming in, very grateful for. They are all being saved towards the cause. So for the people who say I'm not getting it done, okay, maybe fair, but at the same time, it's not just me. You know, I'm here working every day, doing my best to get people to support, putting out a lot of good information, asking people to just pledge $1 so we can build it up to that goal and have a lot of people behind it. And all I can say right now is it's going to happen, and hopefully sooner than later. So again, True Seeker, a reminder though, there's always more. Just this whole thing about Pope Francis and Suite 201. I'd been talking about 201 and the Pope and the Jesuits for how long before it was pointed out, this Suite 201 that we didn't know all this time. And then to find out that, it's just crazy, you know, the name of the building is 201. Again, it makes me wonder how much more low-hanging fruit is out there. And that other thought from the beginning of the show, in Jewish Gematria, Mars is 201. I have a feeling there's something big going on with Mars and all this, but I don't know enough about astrology and the planets right now to answer it. So, all right, True Seeker, Thanks again, everyone. If you haven't signed up on the Patreon page, again, you guys pledge $1. You can read the first 11 chapters of my book right now. It's a 19-chapter book. I got the first 11 chapters there. I'm going to add a few more things in those first 11 chapters to the final copy, but the majority of it's there. And those first 11 chapters, I think, are a little more than 200 pages, so plenty of reading. A lot of good information. Alrighty, Truth Seeker. Till next time.